We've been saying it all season long, but 2017 has been the Martin Krönke show. But we head ourselves back home again to Indiana with potentially the opportunity for someone to take his crown away. So welcome to qualifying for the 8th round of the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. Wilvinson, Jonathan Simon here at Indianapolis, and well, immediately we're going to turn our attention over to qualifying because the drivers have already started setting their lap times. It's Krönke from Bakkum, then Bono Huis in 3rd, Frank Shorehorse in the 4th position. 5th place goes to Yao Vaz for the time being. But on a short track like this, just 1:05 around here, Johnny. The lap times, they tick off oh so very, very quickly.
Yes, they will. Good evening, everybody. Brilliant to be back here in the commentary booth for another round of the World Championship. And as you mentioned, on a cold track in qualifying, will these lap times decrease for sure, as well as the track starts to rubber up. But right now, it's our championship leader, Martin Krönke, in the lead. He's currently on that provisional pole position. Mack Bakkum second. Martti Pietilä for the moment makes it a Coanda 1, 2, 3. But we're on board then with Gregor Huttu. As he's back after 2 rounds of absence, he goes onto the banking. 9.25 degrees worth of banking. Through the final corner he comes. High line being taken, getting ready to set himself up for a flying lap. Jamie Fluke out of nowhere, 2nd place in qualifying. We've seen this all season long. Some of these JCL Apex Racing UK machines getting up in the timing stands. Today, it's the case of Jamie Fluke right up there. And good to see it too. He's a driver that performed very well in the Pro Series, the series which gives some of these drivers their licenses to race in the World Championship. And Fluke in his rookie season to be P2 at Indy. Brilliant stuff here on a 31-car grid.
Yeah, it's going to be a fantastic race. We know that one already. The fact that we've got storylines playing out left, right, and centre. But the case in point now is going to be Gregor Huttu. He's got a 1:05.129 to beat to get himself to the top of the timing stands. Now, we do know that Martin Krönke traditionally does go faster on his 2nd lap, but let's keep an eye out then on Gregor Huttu. He's going to exit onto the banking then for his first of 2 timed laps. What can Mr. 5-time world champion do as he crosses the start-finish line? The answer is going to be P1, pole position. Gregor Huttu is back.
He's back. First time since Monza. He's been in a qualifying session and he was 3rd then. He's only got 1 pole position this season, which we saw at Sebring. Can he make it 2? That time, though, it looks very unprotected right there. Only 100th of a second ahead of Mack Bakkum and the other Coanda who slots himself up into P2. Yeah, that's Mack Bakkum, who's just on his 2nd qualifying attempt then. So he won't go for pole position here today. Huttu, Bakkum, Krönke, Huis, Shorehorse, Jamie Fluke, Pietilä. They are your top 7 right now. We have got a lot of drivers who haven't yet qualified. One of them is the driver of Mitchell de Jong, working himself through the infield right now. And actually, de Jong, I would say, is a proper wild card in this event. Works himself then on to the banking. Final 2 corners now for him. Let's have a look at Mitchell de Jong in that VOS Coanda Sim Sports machine, hugging that inside line. Time lap then for Mitchell de Jong. Where's he going to fit in a home race for him? De Jong will move himself up to P number 1. It's Coanda back on top there by 0.2 of a second. Wow, Johnny, wow. Oh, wow. Brilliant stuff as well. And he's been absent since Monza too. So both himself and Gregor on part-time schedules this season. And he's qualified 2nd at Monza. And this time, 1 better so far for Mitchell de Jong, who has been really, when he's been on his game, now not taking it away from Gregor Huttu, but I think Mitchell's been Martin's best competitor when, especially looking at Monza, when he finished less than a second behind at the end of the race.
Yep, so on now with Gregor Huttu once again. He's just coming out of pit road, keeping an eye out, of course, for Martin Krönke. He is sat there waiting on pit road, and this is what Krönke's done all season long, Johnny. He is basically just waited until the last moment. He has been fearless under pressure this season, but now Gregor Huttu is in a very difficult situation because he's got Mack Bakkum only a few thousandths of a second behind him. Martin Krönke only a few thousandths of a second back from him. If he messes this lap up, he could end up falling down to 3rd place pretty easily on the grid. But on the flip side of that, he's got the chance now to go for pole position, and that lap starts right now.
Yeah. Let's go, Gregor. Widens the line through the final corner. And this will get the biggest run on the front stretch. Here we go, crosses the line. DRS open to begin the lap, up to 340 kilometers an hour in that Team Redline car. Into turn 1, braking, clips the apex nicely, has a small twitch mid-apex though into 2, and that's compromised his exit. Here he comes to the next complex of corners. Nice and easy, good stuff from Gregor. Into the infield section, into turn 6 there, spotting the apex. You have to take a really wide line through here and hit that second apex, which he does. Fine turn 7. Don't run too wide on the exit. Open the DRS and go diagonal across the straight to turn 8. Throw the car into here and then pick it up on the exit for 9 and 10. You're not worried about exit speed. You're just trying to manage as much time through the corner entry and then widen this line as much as possible. Take the curb on the inside. Make sure your roll bars are set up to not understeer through turn 11. And then again, here we go, Will. Taking the shortest run to the line on the inside to end his lap.
Yep, so 104.9 now to beat for Gregor Hutu, crosses the stripe. And he's not got it. He goes faster, but not fast enough. Gregor Hutu will not start on pole position here today, but as Remniak is on track as we speak. We've just had ourselves David Akor move up into the field. Mo Garfilo, Kazuki Umeshima and Dion Verges have yet to set a single time here today. Having a look on board with Mo Garfilo. And this is actually a smart tactic here, Johnny, because the lap times are so short here. Let everyone put the rubber down, then you go for a lap.
Yeah, as long as the track temperature doesn't decrease when nobody's out there, that's the only time it will be good. We know Remniak improved and didn't improve his position though, and just fell short of Frank Schothorst in front in P7, so he will start no greater than that 4th row. And here's Mo Garfilo to cross the line.
Mo Garfilo moves himself up into 18th place then for the time being, and back out on track. It's the driver of Martin Krönke. It's been rapid fire qualifying here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, as we are, ladies and gentlemen, going to ride this lap on board with Martin Krönke. Give you some RaceSpotTV fan immersion as he goes for pole position. Here we go. Second place only. 15 1,000ths of a second. Krönke can't do it.
They've switched roles this round, Krönke and de Jong, because Mitchell de Jong is still in the pits and he still has 1 lap spare to go, which I'm not sure if you'll.
No, he has done his second run. He has done his second run.
Mitchell de Jong?
Yeah, he has done his second run. That's what he got him into the 114.905. And again, I think Martin Krönke was trying to be the driver to get into the 104.8. Wasn't quite able to do so. 104.920 there for Krönke. But that's very interesting because, again, Kawanda 1-2.
Yeah, good stuff anyway. So they're on the front row there, but it's not locked out completely. Maybe Mishima there in 16th, Montañez, Meglet, Schilbrink. Any of them can surprise us. Umeshima would be our best bet here as he crosses the line very, very shortly. Can he improve?
Here is Kazuki Yamashima then heading himself past the start-finish line. Let's have a look. Lap times up for you now. 105.5 is his best of the day so far. 105.352. He does move up to P number 12. As Tommy Meglik there is just sat there on pit load doing pretty much nothing. Wow, that was a fast-paced qualifying here today, Johnny.
Yeah, good stuff, especially from Mishima, who is 7th in the championship going into this round. So, brilliant stuff from him. He's got Marcus Jensen behind in 8th in the championship, but Jensen, at least this round, is ahead of him, starting in the top 10. He's been very impressive, the 16-year-old. And so, but as we said, Coanda front row, Hutu back and behind. Give your and tip your hat off to Jamie Fluke in P5. I mean, a guy yesterday I spoke to, and he wasn't really sure on his chances for this round. Well, hey, look at right now in qualifying. You've done a brilliant job.
Yep. So let's have a look then through your starting grid for the 8th round of the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. And it will be a case of Mitchell de Jong qualifying with a qualifying time of 104.905. Alongside him will be VRS Commander SimSports teammate Martin Krönke, who has won all 7 rounds of the championship so far. Gregor Hutu back after 2 rounds worth of absent, 105.084, a full 10th and a bit back from the Commander duo. And then you've got Mack Bakkum, the 3rd Commander driver, in 4th, and Jamie Fluke is the 5th place driver for Apex Racing UK, ahead of Bono Huis by 5 1/1000ths of a second. Frank Shawhorse is the 3rd Team Redline driver in 7th, Balas Remniak in 8th, 9th place is Marcus Jensen, and Martti Pietilä rounds out your top 10. There is the rest of the times coming up on your screen for you now. We've got 31 drivers who have qualified for this, the 8th round of the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. You can see Thurnet Kern there in the Apex Racing Academy car at the rear of your field. 31 drivers going to do battle here at Indianapolis. We're going to break down everything that happened from qualifying and more after these messages. You're watching RaceSpotTV on iRacing Live.
Get ready, going green. Green, green, green.
The NASCAR Peak Info Series, powered by iRacing, is the premier NASCAR eSports series featuring the cars and tracks from the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. The 2016 campaign saw a return to the top of the mountain by Ray Alfalla as a 3-time NASCAR World Champion. The march to that championship was not easy, though, despite the fact that Ray Alfalla took home the most points in series history. It just also happened to be the tightest championship fight we had ever seen. These guys are set for the 2017 campaign, and as it has been for the 7 years prior, it is no longer going to be a straight shot to the championship. We are going to see the biggest change in this championship picture in series history, as for the first time ever, there will be a chase for the championship. We're going to go into the Homestead Miami Speedway at the end of the season with the 4 best oval sim racing drivers in the world absolutely tied in the championship. You just got to beat the other 3 guys out and you will become an official NASCAR champion. You're going to get yourself a NASCAR championship ring and, of course, $10,000. These are the iRacing Esport World Championships, the pinnacle of sim racing competition. You can catch it all season long, live coverage on iRacing.com/live.
Welcome back to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, located about 5 miles to the northwest of the state capital of Indiana. That, of course, is Indianapolis itself. Many people, actually, Johnny, get Indianapolis and Speedway confused, but technically they are 2 different places.
Ah! Oh, I didn't know that either. Fun fact of the day. It is a great circuit, though. It's good to be back here for another year. We've had some interesting races. Last year, the story really was the difference between straight line speed between Coanda and Team Redline. And we'll talk about setup later on for Indianapolis, because what we've learned in the McLaren is that a lot of these downforce packages might be the same on lap time, but the straight line speed makes a huge difference.
Oh, yes, indeed. But what we've also seen here today is what I would call a wild and wacky qualifying. That's what I like about these shorter distance racetracks. It means that people can really spread out the qualifying session to make it really entertaining for us. We thought for a moment or so that we might well have got ourselves Gregor Hutu onto pole position, but it turned out to be a case of nope, not just yet.
Yeah, I think 104s is what I was expecting as well. So I was expecting a couple more drivers to pip into the 104s. So I'm not sure if I'm just a bit optimistic or if the weather had a role to play in that, because it was only 23 degrees out there. Overcast weather as well. Lots of clouds in the skies. Track temp 23 degrees as well. And what we've normally seen this season, Will, is just through pure coincidence, the track temp mostly during qualifying in the race has been in the 30 to 40 degree range, so you're having cold temps this time around, and it's interesting to see if it affects drivers that much. And what I've learnt, Will, moral of the story is, if you're quick, it doesn't matter what the temperature is, because you'll still be near the top.
Oh yeah, indeed, indeed. So, and what I have think as well is that the track temps really did play a big impact today. I was having a look back on the commercial at the lap that the driver of Martin Krönke was able to do. And it wasn't a bad lap by any stretch of the imagination. I just think that he lost out a tiny bit because of the fact that the track was so slippery. And we know that Martin Krönke does like a kind of solid, easy turning race car, and you do get the back end squirrely out of turn number 7 as you go down the Holman straightaway in conditions like this. Yeah,
so I mean, I'm not really the expert. I mean, I should be the expert on that, but the point is that yeah, you know, driving styles, it's a huge difference as well. I think for me, track temps will make a difference, but it's more the downforce package too, and whether Coanda and what they've opted for. We'll find out in the race too, because we know with DRS, sometimes it's hard to tell which downforce packages certain drivers have gone for, but we don't have the speed trap data on us, and that's going to be something interesting. So what I wanted to bring up on that before we head into our team analysis is what we've learned in the McLaren is that the low to medium to high downforce packages, they all work at Indianapolis. And so I'd rather opt for the low downforce package, considering that this race will be either 0 or 1 stop. I'd want to stay in front as long as possible and be difficult to overtake rather than make those pit stops and go for the high downforce where you can't get past anyone.
The NX Racing strategy. I mean, let's not forget, in the years that we've done this series together, NX Racing so often have been the team who have been the fastest in a straight line. And actually, if you're Coanda, you've got a very difficult choice to make right now, because you've got 3 of the top 4 drivers in the field. However, if you've got a fast Gregor Hutu who can overtake on the straightaways, then that's going to make life very, very difficult.
Yes, it is. And so that was the story last year anyways. That red line suffered in terms of straight line speed compared to Coanda. Let's hope this year anyway that's not the case. So Gregor anyway, he is in P3. We know Shotos Haas also here. Graham Carroll on holidays, unable to attend this round. Olli Pakala the same. He's at a Finnish, what is that? The Finnish Championship? I forgot the name of it. But he's over there. And yes, that's it. FSRC, which I've also... Didn't you and I commentate on a race about a year and a half ago for the Yeah, and that was very fun, that series. You know, Finns have great talent. It's like seeing the Jamaicans in sprinting, you know. It was one of those things. In motor racing, the Finns are brilliant, and it's good to see.
I think you're the first person ever to compare Finnish sim racing to Jamaican sprinting. But let's give a shout out to FSRC because it is going to be on national TV in Finland. So let's give a shout out to those guys over at their Sim Racing Expo event here this weekend. Let's talk about the teams then. Let's start, of course, with Coanda Simsport, and let's start with Mitchell de Jong. Pole position, of course. 3 of the top 4 drivers, they are Coanda Simsports.
Brilliant stuff. They're just very, very quick this season. They work well together. I like the improvement from Mack Bakkum too. There's no expectations, I think, from him this year other than to keep it clean and show some potential. And I think this round he's shown some great potential there, starting from P4 on the second row. Yep.
And then, of course, you've got Gregor Hutu. He leads a number of drivers from the Team Redline stable. You've got yourself Bono Huis in 6th and Frank Shawhorse in 7th. Again, there seems to be just that little bit of a gap that makes it noticeable between Gregor Hutu and House and Shorthorst here. And I've been harping on about it all season long. We're 8 rounds into the championship right now. Bono Huis, of course, has qualified for World's Fastest Gamer. Frank Shawhorst, of course, for Team Redline. But Hutu seems to have something to prove here today, I think. And that's what accomplishes part of that gap.
It is, you know... He does have 5 world championships to his name. So in my opinion, what else can he... Yeah, so what else does he have to prove? I would look at it differently, but you can see this is the objective nature that is life and motor racing. I think he's got nothing else to prove. But at the same time, I don't really think he wants to be finishing his career off looking wasted. I think he still wants to win races. He doesn't want to have a winless season. And he'll definitely want to be up there for the win, but it will be challenging if he's about a 10th and a half off pole position in qualifying alone.
Jamie Fluke, every single round, we always seem to have an Apex Racing UK car get into the top 5. Jamie Fluke, that's his chance here today. As you said, Graham Carroll on alternate business this weekend. But Jamie Fluke, I mean, fantastic ride for him, top 5. Of course, the question's going to be, can he maintain that high-paced racing throughout the 73 laps here today? Because that seems to have been the one thing that we've seen that's maybe been a bit difficult for that team this season.
Yeah, exactly. The team hasn't gone as planned this season. We haven't seen Alex Simpson, team boss, who I was hoping would jump into the grid for a race this year. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case. But talking to Jamie yesterday, he was quite... I think he was trying to stay humble. He said he was unsure what his pace was going to be like for qualifying, but he quietly hinted to me that his pace and practice went very, very well. So I think P5, maybe not what he expected, but he probably was quietly optimistic, and I think he's not really an arrogant figure. He just wanted to stay calm and say, hey, I think I can look good for this round, but you know what, I'm unsure.
Of course, you've got Marcus Jensen in P number 9, same team. You got Martti Pietilä in P at number 10. And then, of course, you head yourselves over to Radicals Online. They've got themselves Kazuki Umeshima in the 12th place, their highest driver. Again, I think Radicals are focusing more on the race than they were on qualifying here this afternoon.
Yeah, and let's see what happens with Radicals. I really hope for the best for them as usual. I think, regardless anyway, that latter end of the top 10. So we look at Remeniek, Jensen behind, Pietilä, Higgelen. We'll cover him a little later on, but very interesting latter stages of that top 10, you know, that you don't really... Out of all these drivers, there's no one I'd rank above the other, really. I mean, Pietilä has achieved some good success. Higgelen's been around for a while, but the others are really unproven guys. And you know, lots to prove for them. Even going down to Kevin Ellis Jr., Stephen Michaels, who returns to the series. These are guys who have something to prove, and I think that's going to be a feisty mid-pack come the race.
You talked about Belis Remignac. You've got 30 seconds. Get on your soapbox, Johnny. Talk about him.
Belis Remignac. He, to see him in PA is amazing. I mean, Belis Remignac, really. His best qualifying result before this race was a P11. And so, that was at Monza this season. He's had a tough rookie campaign, but he's 20 years old. Lot to learn. Let's see what he can do come the race.
Well, that's all we got time for the pre-show here, ladies and gentlemen, on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live. Coming up next, it's round number 8 of the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. We are back home again in Indiana. You can just see there on your screen the likes of the Indianapolis, the city, on the right-hand side to the top. You can also see, of course, the home of the Indianapolis Colts. But that's not where we're paying our attention to today. We're paying it at the Cathedral of Speed, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, next here on RaceSpotTV, streaming live on iRacing Live. We'll be back in a moment.
Get ready, going green. Green, green, green. Get ready, going green. Green, green, green.
Watch Ernie, go, go, go. Car right, car right, car right, car right. Watch, car right. Watch, damn it. Oh! Get ready. Dude, boy, heads up in that. Jeez.
Right on the back wing. Can he make it happen?
Yes! Yes! Push like hell. We gotta stay in front of these guys.
Both drivers on the push to pass. Contact in the pit lane.
All right, 60. Let that eagle fly. What do I do? What happened? Push here. Push hard. Let's go get this guy. Car outside. We're behind you. No. Clear outside. Good job. Just spun behind you. I don't know if you got him or not.
He got out of it so hard. Look at these guys are all over the back.
Full throttle.
IndyCar. The in and out lap. What's next?
Come and get the checkers, big boy. Oh, baby, that was good. He hit me. Inside, inside, outside, inside, outside.
2017 Verizon IndyCar Series. See what's next.
Back in 1909, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway was conceived with one vision in mind: work out who can be the fastest around a track that was later nicknamed the Cathedral of Speed. Since then, it's changed a few times. First of all, the track was basically made out of bits of cinder. Then it became known as the Brickyard. We still see that today with the 1 yard of bricks along the start-finish line. And then later on, it was paved. After World War II, handed over to the Holman George family. And since then, we've seen it grow and evolve. In the early 1990s, NASCAR came along. Then in 2000, it was Formula One's turn. The opportunity for them to take center stage on the infield layout. IndyCar now has a race on the infield and, of course, the legendary Indianapolis 500. But today, it's all about the 8th round of the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series, where we have the driver of Mitchell de Jong on pole position. We're going to go racing for 73 laps here this afternoon. Air temp 73 degrees Fahrenheit, humidity 42%, clear skies, it's cleared up. Jonathan Simon, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Will. Good to be back here. It's race time, and the weather's changed as well. We had a very cold and gloomy qualifying session. Here comes the race. 23 degrees in the skies, 39-degree track temps. Expect one stops out there today. Again, as usual, that pit window will range anywhere between lap 30 and around about lap 44 to 45. You'd expect people to come in earlier, though, as the car is heavier in that first stint, and it will wear the tires out slightly more. Low downforce runners this race, I'm expecting to be better off than the high downforce runners due to the long straight.
Yeah, although track conditions changing will mean that some people now are thinking, do we go medium maybe instead of low, maybe medium instead of high? That's one thing we're going to have to think of. We've got 3 minutes actually remaining of qualifying, and actually I did an entire intro about mentioning Martin Krönke, Johnny, but he's in second place here today. He's looking to make it 8 out of 8, but he's got his teammate who he has to beat today. That is Mitchell de Jong.
I think Mitchell de Jong's been Martin's best competitor all season, and not taking it away from Gregor Hutu, but when Mitchell showed up, he's been very competitive. Don't forget Monza, which we mentioned before, where Mitchell finished 9/10 of a second behind the race win, and he did qualify higher than his teammate Martin. So are we going to see the same thing this round? The start is going to be so crucial. We know these are Pirelli tires. We know this is modern day Formula One cars out there right now, but the start, it's back to the olden days. Who can nail it into turn one and who can get their nose in front?
And let's have a look at your starting grid for this afternoon, because it is Koana SimSport to have 3 of the top 4 places. Mitchell de Jong, 104.905, 15 one-thousandths of a second ahead of Martin Krönke. Ironically, that's about the gap in the 2006 Indy 500 between Marco Andretti, who came second, and Sam Hornish Jr., who came first. Gregor Huttu, 3rd place. Mack Bakkum in P number 4. So Gregor Huttu really is in a Koana sandwich here this afternoon. Jamie Fluke in 5th place. Bono Huis in 6th. Frank Shawhorse in 7th. Banas Remniak for Vortex Sim Racing. Best qualifying of the year for him so far in 8th. Marcus Jensen in 9th. 2 Apex Racing UK machines inside your top 10. And Koana SimSports round out your top 10 with Martti Pietilä. There's the remainder of the times coming up on your screen. Johnny, who do we need to watch out for here this afternoon?
I think anybody in that top 5 can be quick. I think Apex, the only concern I have for Jamie Fluke is that car going to sustain the same pace during the race, or is he going to be cleaned up by Huis and Schottles behind in the red line cars? But yeah, those Koanda cars, very quick, and don't be surprised if we see a Koanda 1, 2, 3 by the end of this race, although Gregor could spoil the party.
And of course, we know that turn number 1 here can be very dangerous. We may well see a bit of an issue down in your mid-pack.
Yeah, definitely. The turn 1 and 2, it's not really a hairpin. It's not really a very slow corner. It's medium speed, right-hander. You try to go side by side through there. If somebody accidentally locks up, it reminds me a lot of the Hungaroring, and we see turn 2 at the Hungaroring, or turn 3, the left-hander. And that's a very difficult corner because you're not entirely slowing down and under control. You're trying to carry as much speed through that complex, and that's where it tightens up on the exit going into 2. So it really is going to bottleneck at the start. But as we said, it's a mad scrambling pack of mid-pack drivers, which I said in qualifying will all have something to prove.
Especially in the back end of the season when drivers are getting ready to think about qualification for the 2018 championship as well.
Definitely. And so those licenses, I mean, Mitchell de Jong right now isn't even in contention for a license. So he's currently in 31st in the championship standing. So he'll surely make his way back up there into contention for that 2018 license. But the likes of Alex Bergeron, who's back out there starting from 28th, he's got something to prove. Definitely other drivers as well. Mogarfilio, Alexius Iaccola, who's absent this round, could also fall away and lose his license for next season. So lots of drivers, lots of things to prove. But now, Will, we switch over to the race in the grid. I'm getting nervous again. This is such an exciting event coming up. Those times are so close. I'm nervous. Wow.
They are. And there's the weather conditions for you one more time. 73 degrees air temp. Of course, track temp is closer to 90 degrees here this afternoon. 42% humidity. That might make a bit of an impact on overtaking. You shouldn't do too much. It's clear and there's very little wind. That will help these drivers no end this afternoon. Now we've got the drivers. They are headed down to the starting grid and they are getting themselves ready to go for what is going to be the 8th round of the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. Hello to all our friends watching on YouTube as well as Jinx TV. Lights are on top of the gantry and we are set for 73 laps of racing. The cars get themselves underway and immediately, look at that, everyone trying to overtake Gregor Huttu as they come down in towards turn number 1. Who is going to have the advantage into that first corner? The answer, it's going to be de Jong from Krönke, and we've got ourselves a driver of Martti Pietilä at one place, but I just saw there Krönke going wide down at turn number 2. Actually, no, that was Bakkum even going wide, but Bakkum's now side by side with his teammate versus Gregor Huttu. Huttu is back up into 3rd place, but they're still going side by side right now. Bakkum had an opportunity. He lost it in the early going of this race event. So actually, we're pretty much no change, and look at how close. He's hit him. He's hit Gregor Huttu. Huttu up into the air. Huttu out of the motor race. Calamity there for Gregor Huttu versus Mack Bakkum.
Oh, goodness me. Mack Bakkum's made a mockery of the start. He split between his 2 teammates ahead, and it confused all of us, but he was leading into turn 1, made a mockery of the first few corners, and then collected the 5-time world champion of Gregor Huttu, who continues away here from P30. Fabrizio Jobbi has stopped off the racetrack, so he is so far our only retirement. But goodness me, Mack Bakkum went from potential race winner to now looking forward to a penalty from the stewards.
Yeah, and you just see that was the impact that happened, and then Gregor Huttu as a consequence of that, it all went wrong for him this afternoon. So Gregor Hutu has actually brought his car now on towards pit road. So that is game over for him. Mitchell de Jong does lead this motor racing. Now you've got to say, Johnny, in terms of the championship, it's pretty much now all over for Gregor Hutu.
I mean, let's see what happens for the rest of this race, but just disappointing. For Mack especially, because yeah, he was at fault, but he just needed to pick himself up a little bit better, and I think he went into panic mode, made some silly mistakes there, and I think he was just trying to recover those lost positions. But never are you going to see such a great start again and somebody butcher it as much as they did ever again. I mean, that was just a calamity of a first few corners. It
was a fantastic start actually for the driver on Mack Bakkum, and then it just all went unglued very quickly. We're on board of Frank Schulhorst right now versus Antoine Hegelin. Hegelin up into 6th place in the early going of this race, but now he's got Frank Schulhorst looking down to his inside as they come down in towards turn number 1. Schulhorst with the inside line is gonna make the move up into the 6th position for the time being. I am keeping a half eye on the battle going on for your race lead. Just to let you know as well, Yuta Saito passes his teammate. That is the driver of Paul Ilbrink for P number 19.
Yeah, and don't forget another Radicals driver of Daniel Arendt. He's from P17 on the grid, currently in the top 10. Great start for him. Alex Bergeron from 28th, currently in P13. Those are your biggest movers and shakers throughout the field. Obviously, your biggest calamities at the start. Gregor Hutu, Balazars Reminiak, who started in the top 10, they're both towards the back of the grid.
I think we need to get a replay of that start, to be honest. I think we need to have a look at a replay of that start from the likes of the driver of, who am I thinking of, Mack Bakkum right now. So here we are, we're on board of him. You can see he's got clear track in front of him as we come down in towards turn number 1. And for a moment, he just overshoots that first corner. Too heavy, and he could have actually taken out his teammates if he wasn't as lucky as he was. His teammates go past. There goes 1, there goes 2. And you can see at this point, he's really struggling for track grip more than anything else. There's Gregor Hutu going alongside of him. Hutu gets a little bit squirrely in towards turn number 5. That long 180-degree left-hander, and this is where the contact happens here. That pushes the driver of Gregor Hutu out of the motor race. But it was a crazy start, as we're just going to show you a look again from our aerial coverage, because actually, you would say at the start of this race, Mack Bakkum had one of the best starts, I think, in the World Championship Series this year. He actually did move himself to the race lead for a good 250 meters, and the two Coanda drivers went 3 wide with Gregor Hutu at the start.
Yep, so that was the case, and at the same time, that's just the way it is at the start of these races at bottlenecks. I mean, we heard news as well that Balazars Reminiak at turn 10, that's where he had his issues, was collected by the young Marcus Jensen, so Jensen will be getting a bit of a talking to from the stewards. In fact, Reminiak has actually entered the pits according to my timing screen, so the damage was so severe that Reminiak has actually opted to the pit lane. But Gregor Hutu, by the way, is he retired from this event?
Yes, he has indeed. As we're just having a look then, we saw Gregor Hutu and the drivers swarming to avoid him, and then here's a replay of Balazars Reminiak from that start. This is down in towards turn number 10 on the opening lap of this motor race, and there's the incident there that put Balazars Reminiak out of this event. And actually, he collected one of his own teammates through no fault of his own, and a Radicals Online driver as well. But we go back to the front of your field, because all of a sudden, you've got yourself Martin Krönke on lap number 5 of 73, who has got Mitchell de Jong in his sights. Now, DRS is now active in this event, so the question's going to be, will Martin Krönke try and go for the race lead? The difficult thing is, before you get onto this really long straightaway, of course, with a couple of oval corners in the middle of it, you have 2 very difficult corners that really does cost Krönke about 2 tenths of a second. DRS is now enabled, so he will be getting all of that tone. And I've got a feeling, actually, that Coanda have adopted the kind of medium speed downforce package, because Krönke did not close up as much as I would have thought to there into turn number 1.
Yeah, it depends as well. We don't really know what each team is running, but it looks like it could be the medium. And so here they come through the infield section on towards turn 6. And Krönke possibly having a look. De Jong takes a nice and wide line through there. It's not something we see often, but in these higher downforce cars and the open wheelers, you can do that. We did see in the support series earlier in the Porsche Super Cup, where the drivers had to take such a tight line going into that left-hander at turn 6. So this is where you can get away with it in the McLaren. Such a powerful car. As they head towards turn number 10, this is where that incident happened with Balazars Remenick. It was collected by Jensen. And this is the corner you were talking about, Will, where you can see Krönke was about an inch close to running onto the grass, and that's because of the dirty air.
Yeah, just having a look at James Food versus Freight Shawhorse. He's losing a little time, actually, to Freight for the time being. Behind, you've got Ilkka Happala right now versus Daniel Arndt Wenting, who's actually, after moving himself up into the top 10, is now in that 10th position. But Ilkka Happala for the Orion race team, let's see what he's got under his belt. 216 miles an hour, and Ilkka Happala actually was 1 mile an hour slower than Wenting, heading themselves down into turn number 1. They've all got, of course, the draft and the DRS because of this kind of train that we've got going on. But Happala doesn't look as though he's got the highest top speed here today. Is ahead. You've got yourself Kevin Ellis Jr. and Antoine Hegelin very close together.
Yep, you do. And so, oh, that's very close, that battle in front. I'm just keeping an eye on it, but there is Kevin Ellis Jr. as well, who very close to Hegelin. Hegelin's been impressive in 2017, and he's been part of the highlights from many lowlights that's happened to Apex Racing UK this season. It's been a mix of both, 50-50, but Hegelin, as he goes through the tight right-hander, I think Ellis in the dirty air actually got a better run, but then the exit, he's compromised. Here they go across the straight, and Ellis Jr. picks up a lot of understeer, and he's going to fall into the clutches possibly of Martti Pietilä behind. Let's have a look.
Well, here comes Kevin Ellis Jr. then over his teammate Antoine Hegelin, gets the pass complete in towards that first corner. Martti Pietilä wasn't close enough to make any move over either of these two drivers, and I would have thought actually that Martti Pietilä would have been able to use that to his advantage, but as the two drivers from Apex go side by side, that allows Martti Pietilä to just slot himself now up into 8th place. That was an opportunistic move there by Pietilä, but he made it work.
Yeah, very experienced move from Martti. He's raced in the series for a number of years now, so calm and collected, making that maneuver on Anton Hegelin, who, you know, I still always think of Hegelin as the young man, and I realize he's been in this series for quite a few years now. You know, people grow old very quick, although he's still in his early 20s, still learning as much as he can, hasn't extracted as much potential as Pietilä runs wide through that tricky turn 9 and 10 complex. So at the start of this race, really, the story's been, at least at the front, De Jong versus Krönke, still no changes. Yeah,
so I'm just having a look at Daniel Arndt Wenting. He has still got the draft from Antoine Hegelin ahead of him. That's important to him because of the fact that Ilkka Happala is still in touching distance, about 4 tenths of a second. And I want to talk about the start of this motor race again because, yes, Mack Bakkum overshot the corner, but Mack Bakkum made a perfect start.
He did, but let's say in this race is the real question. And I think, man, what are you going to remember about Mack getaway? So unfortunately, it's I think the best thing you have to do as a racer, which by the way, we're forgetting that he is currently in P4, Mack Bakkum, behind Bono Huis. So the thing we have to look at right now is how quick can Mack get over this, and will he have the shortest span of angry we'll ever see?
And also what will happen in terms of the post-race review. We have got live stewards that do look into events that happen throughout the course in a motor race. Of course, there is a post-race review that takes place as well of incidents just like this. And there you can see Bakkum driving away. Gregor Hutu, of course, was not as lucky as well. For Gregor Hutu, I mean, I want to go back and actually have a look at the start from Gregor Hutu's perspective because, you know, it was very interesting to see as we go on board with him now. He was going 3 wide actually with 2 of the Commander Simsport cars. And again, you know, he did make the most of a bad situation. And I think what happened was Bakkum backed up those other 2 Commander drivers, enabling him to actually be in the picture. But it just seemed to be that for Gregor Hutu, he was doing everything right, but one would argue, and this is a very controversial thing, knowing the drivers in this series is always important. We're going side by side with someone for 4 corners. Do you maybe just take a slightly wider line into turn number 8 to avoid that, knowing the fact the championship's on the back foot already for you?
Well, if he knew the championship was on the back foot, I don't think he would have missed 2 races. I think he would have found a way to race those 2 races, despite him moving his setup and moving places, and we know he wasn't procrastinating, which we found out too.
Race lead.
As we look at the race lead.
Martin Krönke just moved himself to the race lead, passing Mitchell de Jong on lap number 11 of 73. And I did say in the back of my head that it would only be a matter of time for Krönke. Now, I'm not going to say that de Jong's particularly any slower, and what we might see here is a bit of an exhibition between these two kind of sim sports drivers, swapping positions over the course of this event. Bono Huis, though, is in third place, and I think that's the thing that Martin Krönke is most worried about right now. This is Bono Huis's best chance, I think, of getting himself a race victory this season.
He does, so he has to hope for the best, and he has to really sustain pace too. Now, if you're wondering why Bono is in P3, Mack made a mistake at turn 6 off camera, unfortunately, and we could see in the sector times that he'd lost a lot of time through there, and he's unfortunately fallen behind, so something's gone wrong for Mack through there. Could be a lockup or something else, but he's down into P4, and I think, as you mentioned for Bono, another podium to his name is always nice, but he really wants to be getting those race wins now, being one of the world's best sim racers.
Yeah, of course, he is one of the entrants for world's fastest gamer. He has had mixed luck, really, in the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series this year. I mean, he has improved. I will give him credit when he started this season. But there's what I think is very interesting. Last time by, he was 0.6 of a second faster than Mitchell de Jong. Now, de Jong did actually, have a situation where he was passed for the race lead, but Bono Huis is within 3 seconds of Mitchell de Jong right now, and that is a gap which I think we need to monitor over the course of the next 5 to 6 laps. Down in your field, Stephen Michaels, one of the now sole remaining Vortex Sim Racing drivers, versus Pastas Gerkis from Core Sim Racing. And well, Vortex Sim Racing had high hopes coming into this event. We saw when Martin Krönke was involved in that incident, no fault of his own, down on lap number 1, he took out one of his teammates as well, which is, a huge shame for Vortex, because this, again, was one of their best chances, I think, for a multiple top 10 finish.
Definitely. And we always, I'm not trying to be negative, but we don't want to look at the negatives like that. I'd rather say, okay, Vortex, what are you doing for next season? So, as you mentioned, Will, could have been a good result. Are you attracting drivers with those good results? You're looking for the future with that, because they need to build a squad for next season, Vortex, that they can use and say, hey, look, these are some good young talent we got. We've got a big squad here. They know they had the loss of Michael Dinkel, unfortunately, which was never good. And unfortunately, Michael has been absent from a few races this season too.
Sorry, I'm going to
but look at Bakkum, yeah.
That was almost a replica of what we saw on lap number 1 of this race there, between those two drivers. Bakkum just holding on to 4th there. And I think there's a little bit of damage to Frank Shawhorse's front wing as well. In fact, there is, which is going to be a bit of a factor. But these two drivers, when side by side, down in turn number 5, and you can just see this was almost a carbon copy of what we saw on lap number 1 of this event. And the same thing happened. They made contact at the same point. The only difference this time is that Shawhorse was just, I'd say, about 6 inches further to the left. Otherwise, that would have been a complete repeat of lap number 1. And what you've got to remember as well, thinking as Mack Bakkum, you kind of had to track out the corner down on that right-hander onto the Oldham straightaway. But Shawhorse is putting a lot of pressure right now on that number 16 machine.
Yeah, so that's very important right now for Frake, who is a very quick driver, but I think he had that damage from lap 1 anyway. So that's, here he goes again though. Same spot, so good stuff from Frake. Alongside each other once again, going to 7, and here they go. Oh, look at the exit from Frake Shottos, DRS open, and he should get himself in front.
Yes, he does. So move Frank Shawhorse now up into 4th place. There's been a lot of action already in this event. Shawhorse, because he's got that damage with his front wing, I think that's impacting him in those last couple of corners. This might actually now give Bakkum, well, might have given Bakkum the opportunity to close, but Bakkum lost about 7/10 of a second for those last couple of corners. I do want to have a look at the top line speed though between these two drivers, because Bakkum should still have DRS enabled. Frank Shawhorse up to 207, 208 miles an hour. Bakkum 209 miles an hour. Only 2 miles an hour advantage there for Bakkum, but we do know there is some damage to that number 16 machine. Down in your pack, Ilka Harpala still stuck behind Daniel Arndt-Wernsing, and part of that is because of the fact there is that train of drivers right now You've got yourself Martti Pietilä leading that. Jamie Fluke in 7th, Antoine Hegelen in 8th, Daniel Wernting in 9th, and then Ilka Happala, Kevin Ellis Jr. And as I say that, we just had a move there. Daniel Wernting versus Ilka Happala. Happala tried to go around the long way, and Happala couldn't make it work, but he's getting feisty.
He is. I like it from Ilka, who's one of the smartest drivers out there. So he'll surely be picking the right lines, understanding what to do in this situation. They're all going to be using the DRS and the ERS deployment at one point of the circuit too, which isn't going to help in these trains. And so it's whether or not now, if Pietilä can break the train from Jamie Fluke and Hegelen, because we know that Apex sometimes struggle with their race pace when you get into this middle to third part of the stint, because some drivers like to spread their stints out into 3 stages. This is the way they analyze it. And the first stage, the middle stage, and the last stage is Happala now very close to venting, and that's how you analyze that. Here we go, Ilka.
He tries to go for the inside. They're going to make contact. And around goes Daniel Wernting there. And we've had a number of incidents here today, and Indianapolis does in some ways make it conducive to that. But I'm going to put that down to just a bit of a sloppy maneuvering down into turn number 1. Replay is up then. You see, actually, no, I take that back. Wernting did really come down on Happala. Happala really didn't have anywhere to go.
He didn't give him space. Simple as that. So I know Ilka would have ran slightly wide on the exit, but if Wernting just gave that extra bit of space, I think Ilka could have slowed it down. So that's just have to put that on Wernting, unfortunately. Daniel Laurent, who is now all the way down in P18 after that spin. Ilka's come off better off from the incident, although not good.
Yeah, indeed so. And again, probably damage to that Orion Racing car as well, as you can see in the replay of Wernting returning on the track in P number 18. Marcus Jensen versus Kevin Ellis Jr., 2 teammates going at it right now in towards that first corner, and it's going to be Kevin Ellis Jr. who wins that battle between the 2 JCL Apex Racing UK machines. So plenty of action going on. 3 retirees so far today, by the way. Balas Remniak, we saw what happened to him, turn 10, lap number 1. Gregor Houti will be talking about this one for months to come, and Fabrizio Gobbi as well. Mogar Philo down. Radicals have had a very poor start to this event, but part of that comes down to the Remniak incident down on lap number 1. We haven't really talked too much about it, but both the Radicals drivers were in and around that point, and it seems they've been the worst affected.
Yeah, unlucky for the Radicals drivers. So it's just, for a race, they could have got a strong result out of 2. It had to come at this point in time. So they just have to move on to round 9 and hope for the best. But I mean, there's still some of them in this race. We can't count them all out. And you know, I think Yuta Saito still competitive P16. See what he can do from there. But apart from that, anyway, I have to say the Apex team is looking great right now. You got 4 cars in the top 11. Very good stuff from Apex.
They have indeed. We're on board the Yuta Saito. But again, it seems to be a lot of people can't really overtake at the early stage of this event with that dirty air. We have seen some opportunistic moves. Jamie Fluke still inside the top 10 after qualifying in 5th place. He has fallen behind Martin Pietilä right now. But for Jamie Fluke, you know, consistent lap times. He's only half a second off your race leader Martin Krönke right now, as he's still within, you know, shooting distance on Martin Pietilä, and his teammate Antoine Hegelen is 1 second further back down the road.
Yep, exactly. So that is definitely coming to fruition, that battle. I really hope that De Jong can keep within clutches of his teammate. He's lost DRS anyway. And as we said, I hope it's a repeat of Monza, because that will be really good.
Oh yeah, indeed. So as we go on board, actually, with Mack Bakkum trying to come back on straight Shorehorst, not into 1. Nothing happening between these 2 drivers. Although you see, Bakkum's better actually through the corner, but it seems to be that Freight Shorehorst is better off the corner. And I think that comes down to the differences in the damages between those 2 cars more than anything else. Jamie Fluke versus Pietilä, that one remains at 0.3 of a second. Yuta Saito versus Pastis Gergis, they were nose to tail in towards turn 1. Yuta Saito is in a proper horse and racing sandwich right now. We're on board then with the driver of Yuta Saito. as he works himself through turn number 5. Just ahead of him is Pietilä Gurgis. As you see out the corner, it does seem to be that Gurgis is better on the gas, but Yuta Saito is slightly better under braking. As you stay on board with Saito through these difficult corners, the right, the left, and then the right, you see Saito does close up, and actually, if he gets a good run out of here, famous last words, of course, he might have an opportunity, but he loses a tenth and a half in the second pretty much immediately, and it's going to take a lot to gain that back. He will get the DRS enabled right about now, but down to 2 tenths of a second. Down to 1 tenth of a second, maybe in a moment's time. Yuta Saito looking for P number 14, down to the inside, and he's got it. In towards turn number 1. Yuta Saito, Radicals Online, up into the 14th position. And to go back to your race leader, Martin Krönke, was just about breaking DRS range over Mitchell Dion. But more interesting than that, Johnny, is the fact that Bono Huis has only lost a second over these 2 drivers over the course of the last 10 laps or so.
Yeah, and that's great. That's very critical for Bono, because come pit stop time, he's going to have to do something different in terms of strategy, but at the same time, you can't risk it all, because you don't want to lose out to Freek Schotters, your teammate, and you do want to win this team redline battle. So that's something to keep an eye on, as well as De Jong and Krönke come within 7 tenths at the end of the straight, and as long as De Jong can keep within DRS range, that will be the best bet for him.
Live timing and scoring, ladies and gentlemen, even, is available on RaceSpot.tv/timing. And now let's have a look at your movers and shakers in this event so far. Brought to you by And1 Design, the official graphics partner of RaceSpotTV. And you will see there that we've got ourselves Krönke up 1 place. We know that one, he passed Mitchell Dion for the race lead. But a house Freek Schotters are up 3 places. Part of that is the damage from Mack Bakkum. Part of that, of course, is the fact that Gregor Hutu is out of the motor race. Martti Pietilä started 10th up into 4th place. I mean, that one we kind of expect, John, more than anything else. But also, Ilkka Haapala is your biggest mover inside the top 10. He is up 6 places.
Good stuff from Ilkka. We've been speaking about him all race, and still impressed by Apex's speed right now, and the fact that Fluke can keep within Martti Pietilä in front. And I was expecting Mack to drop back a little bit. Mack Bakkum we're talking about here in P5, but after being passed by Freek Schotters, he's really within 0.4 of a second here at the end of the straight. Mack Bakkum still looking good for a result, and I think he just needed a few laps to clear his head.
Yeah, as you see, David Courts at 10 places here today, currently in P number 17. Part of that is attributed to what we've seen now on the next screen. Suzuki Machine is down 10 places, then the Beaker down 9 places, Balance Remniak, Gregor Hutu down multiple places, and actually David of course loses the place there to his own teammate Yao Vaz in towards the first corner of this track. Now, I'm going to ask you the question actually about these teammate battles. We've got one going on at Apex, we've got one going on at Ryan right now. How frustrating is it when you're battling your own teammate? You're looking at the competition around you, but it seems to just be your teammate that you're involved in a battle with. How hard is it to act differently and, you know, race when you know this person, you test them day in, day out?
I think it's part of the competitive spirit you have with them. It's like trying to go one-on-one with your friend, and you really enjoy it in a way. You know, as long as you don't collect each other. And sometimes you have that racing respect. So you want to beat your teammate, but it doesn't mean you hate them. You just want to have that cheeky advantage. You go grab a beer after the race and enjoy yourself. And that's the sort of respect you should have for your teammate. And that's what a lot of these sim races have, because you do spend pretty much almost every single day testing with them coming up to this round. Some drivers would object to that and say they do practice on the day of the race, which is never good.
Hi, Rick. How are you doing?
Yes, he's one of them.
Jamie Fluke, by the way, is still within half a second of Martin Pietilä. This is what we've been talking about. The story of JCL, Apex Racing UK here this afternoon. Actually, you know, yes, Jamie Fluke's lost 2 places since the start of this motor race, but, you know, he's behind Martin Pietilä, and we know what Pietilä is like. He's that ultra-consistent driver who will always finish inside the top 10, and being behind Martin Pietilä, number 23 or 73, is not a bad shout at all.
No, definitely not. And he's still young as well. I mean, he's 1 month away from his 23rd birthday, so He's just still learning out there. He's got that Jensen Button driving style, which we spoke about last round at Imola. And he's just likes to ease the car into corners. He's a good talker, a good teammate to have. So I think a guy that, you know, any team manager would want to put him onto the team, you know. And I think once he becomes experienced in this league, he's one of those team leaders, a good locker room person to have. Although he doesn't want to do that. He wants to end his career with a world championship, I'm sure.
Of course he does. As we're on to lap number 24 of 73 then in the 8th round of the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. And well, after a crazy start to this motor race, it has started to settle down. So here's the state of play. Martin Krönke started 2nd place in this event, and it was pandemonium at the start, actually. And there was a big risk, Johnny, of all 3 of those Commander drivers coming together in towards turn number 1. But we always joke about Commander being the luckiest team in sim racing. I think today they had that spatial awareness, which makes them the quote-unquote luckiest team in sim racing.
Yeah, and spatial awareness is very underrated. You know, a lot of the times people credit the person who lunges into a corner or makes the great move. But what about the guy who was being passed and realized that if he turned in, he would have taken them both out? And not taking it and not trying to have a shot at Daniel Arendt, but you know, his move with Haapala. Yeah, Haapala threw it up the inside, and it was quite a very optimistic move, but you know, it should have been pulled off. And so when Wensing didn't really have the spatial awareness and turned in, it was a different story. But I feel harsh saying that to Daniel Arendt, because he has been a great driver all season. It's just been one mistake, and we're all humans. This isn't that robot car gimmick, or I don't know what they're trying to do out there with those robot cars, but these are human beings piloting these, and so you are allowed a margin for error.
Stephen Michaels, by the way, battling out with Jorge Montanez, Frostmaster Movano Racing versus Vortex Sim Racing. The big story for those of you just joining us, of course, is the fact that Gregor Hutu is out of this motor race. Turn 1 incident then involving the driver of Mack Bakkum. And, you know, we have got to think about championship implications in this one. And I think that, again, today, I think, would have been Gregor Hutu's best chance of winning a race this season, based upon how feisty he was in those first 6 corners. Now, again, we don't know any more than that, but it did seem to be that you know, Redline car had good speed. He was good in qualifying. He was good at the start of the motor race. And Gregor Hutu must now be thinking, well, time to think about 2018.
Well, yeah. You're really moving on, because there's still 4 more rounds to go.
Oh, come on, Johnny. I'm a realist right now.
Yeah. Well, okay. I like to move on too. So we have Spa, Suzuka, Nürburgring, and then Circuit of the Americas for the final round. What, do Redline look good for any of those rounds? Or specifically Gregor, compared to Martin or Mitchell?
Maybe Kota. I know that Commanders said that they often struggle at the Nürburgring, but, you know, at this stage, I mean, we've seen before that Redline's had issues in the last couple of rounds of the championship, and also the fact, I'd say Kota will probably be their best bet. We are looking ahead of ourselves, by the way. Fernand Kern is in P number 22. He was scrapping it out with Dion Vergers. This is, of course, the battle between Orion Race Team and the Apex Racing UK machine of Fernand Kern. But for Redline, of course, they have still got a couple of irons in the fire. That is Bono Huis and Freek Shorehorse. And to give you an update on Bono Huis, he has lost now another second to Mitchell de Jong. So this is now that Koana Sim Sports team just opening up that envelope to get themselves some security when we actually head ourselves down towards the pit stop phase of this motor race, Johnny, because it now means that in the event they do come in 2-3 laps earlier than Bono Huis, or 2-3 laps later after Bono Huis, it's not going to be too much of an issue.
Yep, and that pit window opens on lap 30, as we mentioned before. We'll go on to about lap 44, 45, but I think you'll see most of these runners come into the pits earlier, and possibly the Coanda crew will have to wait until the rest of the field start to come in, because I think if they pit now, they could feed in, depending on gaps, they could feed into the mid-pack, and that won't be good. They will be impeded. They could potentially lose the lead to Bono Huis. And maybe Krönke or de Jong could lose the lead to one another, and so they're still fighting out for this race win. I think de Jong, as much as he gets along with Martin and their teammates, I don't think he cares if Martin wins and goes clean sweeps this season. I think Mitchell wants a race win to his stat sheet.
I agree. Stephen Michaels gets himself past Jorge Montanez to move himself up into the 12th place. So Vortex now ahead of Thrustmaster Movano Racing on lap number 28. And I was just doing the maths whilst you were saying that, Johnny. I am thinking you are right. If you were to pit now, you'll end up around the Pashas Gergis, Chembulet, Bassi, Yao, Vaz, David Decor part on track. So actually, you probably want to wait as much as you can, maybe till lap 35, lap 36 to make that move and hope that the mid-pack come in before you do.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned Gergis as well. He's ahead of Chembulet Bassi, who I don't know why Chem's in P16. He's very quick. So something not working out for Chem this round, whether it's lack of practice or just haven't figured out the car or setup, or don't know what it is. But yeah, that is the pack that the Coanda cars have to worry about. And also, Gergis told me he wasn't optimistic of his chances this round. I think P15 is so much better than he made it out to me. It sounded like he was going to finish last the way he was talking to me. So I think P15 is good for him so far.
Indeed, sir. And actually, one thing worth noting, of course, in this stage of the season, every point matters for those drivers looking to seek qualification to the 2018 iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. Yuta Saito versus Jorge Montanez is going to be your new battle for P13 on track, because Saito has closed up over the last couple of laps. In fact, last time by, he was a full second faster than Jorge Montanez. Part of that, of course, was the pass that happened, but also now it's the fact that Yuta Saito is within DRS range. Worth noting that Montanez is still within DRS range of Stephen Michaels as well. So we've got ourselves a new 3-horse battle going on. We are onto lap number 30 of 73, and that does mean that pit window is now open for drivers looking to get themselves their one pit stop here today.
Yep, so there's the pit window.
Marcus Jensen's in.
And bang. I'll tell you what, I'm not trying to blow smoke up myself, but I've really been so accurate with these pit windows this season, so I am proud of that. Here's Marcus Jensen searching for his box. This is so difficult, Will, because it's so easy to overshoot your box here at Indianapolis because of the 88km/h pit limit. It's a lot faster than other rounds.
Yeah, and what you want to keep an eye out here is on lane time as well. Marcus Jensen going to be one of two drivers in this lap. You've got Chembulet Bassi in as well for Core Sim Racing. Out and away then, 7.9 seconds. It's a long stop actually for Marcus Jensen, getting some repairs done to that car. That's a 40.8 second pit stop lane to lane as Chembulet Bassi out and away in 10.9 seconds. Again, damage there being repaired. And what these drivers have been doing, they've been waiting until they hit the window, I think, to come in and get some repairs to their race cars. Now, we know that an average pit stop around here is about 4 seconds. So what we can now do is say it's 36 seconds from the start of pit road to the end of pit road. If Martin Krönke were to pit right now, he would come out by between Yao Vaz and David Decor.
Yeah, not good. He doesn't want to be in a pack of drivers who are trying to battle for positions. And Jensen out of the pits. Really important to see how quickly he creeps in on Victor Prieto in front, because this will determine how worn out those tires are. We know track temp is still currently 39 degrees Celsius. And Jensen now, and we'll have to wait for his lap times to pop up. Anyone else in the pits this time around? I don't think so. So
Mogafilo.
I think Mogafilo. So as we said, these are the drivers we have to watch out for, because is it worth pitting at this point of the race? Is it too early?
If you got damage, yes, pit early, because you know you can make it now to the end of the motor race. And I think that's what people's been waiting for. Mogafilo is onto his pit stop. Again, expect this to be closer to a 10-second pit stop because he's got damage that needs to be repaired. A new front wing onto that car. 10, 11. Bono Huis is on pit road, so this is early, and this is going to be very interestingly strategic now, because Bono will be faster for the next 3 to 4 laps. He's hoping that Redline are going to be able to do the undercut here on Coanda Sim Sports, as Mogafilo, by the way, is still on pit road. He's been on pit road for over 30 seconds now, so that shows you just how much damage was done to his Radicals car in that incident, turn 10 at lap number 1. Bono Huis out and away, 3.8 seconds. Where does he come back out? And it's a very difficult pit exit here. He comes out, interestingly, in a little bit of clean air. He's just ahead of Daniel Wensing, and he's 1.7 seconds back from Davide Decore. That's okay, I would say, but he would want to get ahead of Davide Decore the second he gets behind him, and his lap times have been about 7-8 tenths of a second, lap on lap faster than that Orion race team car.
Yes, and so Bono there, he's really counting on these drivers right now to come into the pits, as Freek Schotters also enters the pit in the other red line car, so he's going to repair some of the damage he's got. But apart from that, the Coanda cars continue. So you can see the different team strategies. So it is obviously right now for Freek, he has to avoid traffic. This could either kill Bono's race or really help it. And he just has to make sure he's not impeded by the traffic in front.
Yuta Saito on towards pit road as well. You've just seen him at the very top of your screen. We'll turn our attention to him in a moment's time. Daniel Wensing on pit road as well. This is actually starting to help Bono Huis a little bit, although Davide Decore is still ahead of him on track. 10.6 second stop there for Freek Schotters as Yuta Saito comes in. You can see some very big damage to that car that he's going to have to get repaired. Is Yuta Saito. Daniel Wensing, his teammate, on pit road at exactly the same time. It's going to be a 10-second pit stop for Yuta Saito. Out and away he goes. Daniel Wensing, 4.1 seconds. Standard pit stop for him. He comes out and away as well. Both your Coanda teammates are still on track. And actually, Bono Huis has already passed Davide Decore.
Yeah, he got past him through the infield section. As we say that, Mack Bakkum enters the pit lane. And this is going to be really tight between himself and Freek Schotters, because we know those two are in a scrap in the pits, but Schotters now coming through turn 10. This is going to be very close.
Yeah, remember as well that Mack Bakkum has got damage to repair onto his car, but Schotters had damage to repair on his car as well. There's the pass, by the way, for Bono Huis. He just moved himself down to the inside of Davide Decore. Thank you very much. I'll have that position. I'll send you a nice little Christmas card in the mail for not making that too hard for me. Mack Bakkum comes out of pit road. Where is Freek Schotters? Freek Schotters is behind Mack Bakkum then. He didn't actually get any damage repairs to his car, which is surprising. Yep. A 3.3 second pit stop. That's the fastest I think I've ever seen.
That's a brilliant pit stop, but and good reminder there, Will. Freek Schotters had front wing damage. So that's why Freek Schotters has lost out in his pit stop. At least he's got the damage repaired. But yeah, having one lap older tyres now is a big problem.
Also, I mean, there must have been some damage. In fact, there is some damage to Mack Bakkum's car. I'm going to see if we can zoom in onto that car and have a look. But there should have been some damage to that car. In the incident with Gregor Huta, it's not the sort of thing that we can really see. But Mack Bakkum's not been at the same pace as he was at the very start of this motor race. But we need to turn our attention now back to pit road because Stephen Michaels is on the lane. We've got Yao Vaz on the lane as well. So your mid-pack are now really coming on towards pit road. We've only got about 8 drivers who haven't yet made their journey. Of course, we're paying our attention over to the driver of Martin Krönke. Freek Schotters goes purple, fastest time of the day so far. Martin Krönke is going to come up. No, he's going to stay out for another lap, and actually going as long as he can here as his teammates in. Mitchell de Jong's in. This is who starts first, gets the first pick on strategy.
Possibly, but de Jong nailed that pit entry. Goodness me, great braking control. Kept the car in a straight line. He's going to search for his box as usual and hope that he doesn't make any mistakes. We've seen some quick pit stops today. The pit crew must be, you know, we said 39-degree track temp. It's only 23 ambient, so they're not feeling too dehydrated out there.
They're not. Jamie Fluke is also onto pit road, by the way. So de Jong will hit his box first. And let's have a look at the lap time. 4.2 out and away. Jamie Fluke, there we can see him coming into his pit stall as 37.1. Here's a comparison. Mitchell de Jong was 4 tenths of a second slower on his pit stop over Bono Huis, but they still had the same end-to-end time on the lane. That is how fast Mitchell de Jong was on getting on towards pit road. And
that's just pure practice, pure skill. Good stuff from Mitchell de Jong. Now, not taking away from Bono, because we know as Krönke enters the pit lane, we know Bono is one of the world's best sim racers, but just an impressive pit entry and exit phase for Mitchell de Jong. He was on par with it. And Mitchell is talent for the future, really. I don't really think he's a talent for the future anymore. I think he's a talent now. I think he's proven himself already. Yeah.
Also, one thing worth noting, you saw that on the onboard as Martin Krönke came on towards pit road, that there is a horrible bump just as you're trying to slow that car down to pit road speed. Of course, if you're an IndyCar fan, you'll know how big that bump is. Oh, Krönke overshoots.
Uh-oh.
3.9 seconds. It's not going to be enough, I think, to change the race lead away, but that's a very rare mistake, and actually, it could be. It's mighty close between the two of them. Martin Krönke dodged a big bullet there because the gap is only 0.2 of a second between himself and the driver of Mitchell de Jong. It cost him 0.9 of a second, and that almost was Mitchell de Jong getting himself into the race lead.
And de Jong's tyres are up to temperature compared to Krönke's. So Krönke has a lap to wear him in, and he does have a lapse advantage for the rest of the stint. He's got DRS on Alex Bergeron, I believe, who they're going to lap right now, and that was de Jong's best chance to reclaim the lead. And I mean, the fact that he pitted a lap earlier, he's going to be on the back foot for the rest of this event. Yeah, as we've got a couple of drivers who haven't pitted yet. Martti Pietilä and Ilkka Haapala, two Finnish drivers yet to have pitted here. And you see de Jong now is about 0.6 of a second back heading on towards the oval, and that means he's not going to get the opportunity to go for the race lead here. This was de Jong's best opportunity. Martin Krönke, an uncharacteristic mistake on pit road, overshooting his pit stall. We'll talk more about that in a moment because Martti Pietilä is on pit road. We have got some action going on around your field as well. Yuta Saito versus João Vaz. Just saw that one as they were heading themselves through the racetrack. They are currently heading into the final couple of corners. Yuta Saito is really putting pressure right now on João Vaz. He's got to do it. Yuta, who's been impressive in his rookie season last year, sophomore season, if you want to call it, this season, his second season. He's very far behind. DRS opened here in the zone. Look at the straight line speed João Vaz has. And he had a look at Jorge Montañez, but not enough. No, not enough for him, as Ilkka Haapala stays out, leading some laps here in the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. Of course, Ilkka Haapala has actually won a race in the World Championship Series before. It's a long time ago, but it's really nice, even though he is now on towards pit road, to see a Ryan race team onto pit lane. They come right now after leading a lap here this afternoon. One of the things I was going to talk about here, and this comes in directly into the pit stop for Martin Krönke. One of the things that's unique about pit road at Indianapolis is the fact it's asphalt on the lane, it's concrete in the actual pit stalls. It's a very slippy pit entry here, and I know so many drivers in Grand Prix racing and endurance racing and Indy car racing who have fallen foul of that. Yeah, and they simulate that in iRacing too. So don't just think it's just a visual thing. It is simulated, and it does catch you out at the same time, as does the very tight entrance and the fact you're going to brake and make sure you don't overshoot the entry line and get a drive-through penalty or get a time penalty even. As they head through the first corner again, Saito in front of him as well. João Vaz not close enough. Those two wins, by the way, for Ilkka Haapala, all the way back in the first ever inaugural season of the World Championship. He won the last 2 rounds. And the other rounds were won by Gregor Hutu. Yeah, most of them anyway. Yes. All but one. There was a controversial one in there, but we're actually at this track, Indianapolis. Yeah. Hi, how you doing, Richie? We won't talk about that one today. Martti Pietilä, by the way, through that pit stop phase, fell back behind Jamie Fluke. So Fluke now up into P number 6, Pietilä down into P number 7. Let's have a look at the top end speed for these two drivers as they'll come down towards turn number 1. And again, Fluke, 211 miles an hour max speed by him, and he's not got any toe. So Pietilä is now going to struggle, I think, to get P6 back. Possibly. Let's have a look over these next few laps, I mean. So, anyway, I'm not sure what's going on. What's going on? What is going on? No, I was just wondering if I was having some technical issues there. We're all back on board. So, yeah, Pietilä, what are we talking about? Yeah, his straight line speed. So, back on board with it. He's got another few shots here because he's in the DRS range of Jamie Fluke. You know, what? If you're going to think but Fluke's faster and he has no DRS. That's the issue.
And we're going to see this again as they come out of this corner. We'll pull the graphic up for you one more time. Jamie Fluke hit 211 miles an hour as they came towards, just after the yard of bricks actually, towards turn number 1. Martti Pietilä topped out at about 207, 208 miles an hour. We're going to see this again. You see Jamie Fluke already at 211 miles an hour. Pietilä can't even get, he can just get up to 210.
Yeah, so that is going to be a struggle. So, as we can see right now, going through turn 1 and 2. Well, I mean, your pit stops are made. It's only a one-stop race. And we've only ever seen... the tires are so durable. I've been quite impressed by even Apex's pace this round in terms of race pace, at least. Holding on to that rubber. The Pirelli rubber, holding on to them well, because we've seen them drop off in terms of race pace this season. They've always mastered qualifying. I think Martti Pietilä, for a round where he's stuck behind an Apex car, he'd wish it was an Indy in every other round this season.
Ilkka Haapala versus Marcus Jensen. Battle for position as they'll come through the last couple of corners. Ilkka Haapala needs a good run out of this corner. We know how fast Apex are in a straight line, and this is going to be another example of that. Ilkka Haapala, out of that final corner, gets a really good run actually, up to less than 0.3 of a second. This could be one of his best opportunities to move into the top 10. Marcus Jensen just ahead of him, taking a slightly different line for the final corner, does Ilkka Haapala, down to 0.1 of a second, down to making an overtake. Ilkka Haapala goes for the position, and he moves himself now up into the top 10. Nice and easy pass done there for the driver of Ilkka Haapala. Here are your top 8 on lap number 42 or 73. Martin Krönke leads by just under 1 second on Mitchell de Jong. Bono Huis is in 3rd place. Mack Bakkum in 4th. Rick Shawhorse in 5th. Then it's Fluke, Pietilä and Hegelin that round out your top 8. We will take a very quick break here on RaceSpotTV, ladies and gentlemen. And when we come back, it'll be down to the last 30 laps of the 8th round of the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series, because we are going to go side by side. We'll be right back.
iRacing, you wanted the best, you got them for abreast. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show on dirt, the World of Outlaws.
Hey guys, Christopher Bell here. As you guys know, iRacing is coming out with dirt.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live. Don't forget, tomorrow it is the 6 hours of the Glen. We'll be live here on RaceSpotTV, streaming live on iRacing Live. It is one of the most fast-paced endurance races of the season. So catch it, the 6 hours of the Glen tomorrow, as well as the Indy Elite Series, as Martin Krönke just goes purple there on lap number 45 of 73, Johnny.
He's doing a great job, Martin Krönke, this race, and he's been sublime. It hasn't really been easy for him because his teammate Mitchell de Jong has caused some troubles, and it's all been on the racetrack in terms of pace. So Still 1.5 seconds behind Mitchell, but yeah, Krönke now with fresh rubber, setting the fastest lap. Good stuff.
Indeed so. So what we're going to have to do, ladies and gentlemen, we're just going to ride on board for a lap or so with Martin Krönke, give you a little bit of RaceSpotTV fan immersion on board with your race leader. There you can see Martin Krönke, a lap on board with him. We do apologise for that. I literally had a moment, Johnny. My microphone literally fell out of its stand.
Oh, man. That's never good. And, well, hopefully, at least gracefully, for some of these drivers, they don't have to suffer with that. Team radio straight to your engineer. It's really attached to your headset, something like that. It's quite simple. And it's always interesting as well that the engineer will... Some of these drivers just like to enjoy the race, not talk to anyone. They'll figure out fuel and strategy for themselves. Sometimes when you're on your own and don't have an engineer, what happens is you end up doing manual calculations and you start trying to calculate with decimals in your head for fuel, and you're like, am I going to finish or do I need a fuel save? And you have to do all this prep before the race, but it always helps when you have a guy on the microphone you can talk to, coach you, calm you down in certain situations, even pump you up and get you excited. Some drivers have fallen akin to being very complacent with a calm engineer. They like an engineer that sounds like it's a WWE match or something, and they're like, wow, this is a great battle, and it gets them G'd up as well.
Yeah, indeed. So just to let you know, Daniel Wensing just made a very fast pass over David Court. I mean, that car is on rails right now. Frank Shorehorse versus Mack Bakkum for P number 4 is the big battle we want to talk about inside your top 10 in 1 moment's time, because Pascalis Gergis there is scrapping it out with Yao Vaz, and Pascalis Gergis has just lost that position to Yao Vaz. And here we can have a look at it on the run down in towards turn number 1. Let's go on board with Yao Vaz, and you just see again the overspeed working, even though Gergis actually had DRS open of his own. Yao Vaz just breezed past him in that Orion Race Team car.
Yep, and you'll see later on, Vaz has a half spin at the exit of turn 2, and then Gergis probably could have claimed the position back, but I think for safety reasons, he just backed off slightly off the throttle, and that obviously compromised him a little bit.
Yeah, let's go back to Frank Shorehorse, though, versus Mack Bakkum. And Shorehorse, well, he is now 2 places behind his teammate, Bono Huis. Mack Bakkum has kind of had a bit of a resurgence in the middle part of this event. Just having a look, actually, on board with Shorehorse right now. And it does look as though that he can stick with Bakkum. But the big question, of course, we'll see what happens when we get ourselves down to turn number 12. As Yao Vaz actually just did a little half spin. But he does remain ahead of Gergis for the time being. Let's have a look on board with Frank Shorehorse as he moves himself through this very complicated 90-90-90 sequence of corners, as onto the banking they come, and Shorehorse is about 4.5 tenths of a second back. He loses a little bit on the run out of turn number 12, 3.5 tenths of a second back. In fact, this could be a good opportunity now for Frank Shorehorse. We'll have that DRS wide open for him right now. 219 miles an hour, 220 miles an hour. Frank Shorehorse up into P number 4.
Oh, and look at the car under braking. Has a slight twitch. Gets it controlled on the exit too. Slight moment, but he doesn't lose too much time. And great move by Frank, who gets back into the position he shouldn't have lost in the first place, but he had that damage from the opening lap when he was in the scuffle, or in the aftermath of what happened between Bakkum and Hutu. Unfortunately for the latter of Hutu, out of the event. Bakkum now in P5, and I think that is probably where he'll finish, Will.
Yeah, indeed so. As we now go and have a look on board of Ilkka Haapala of the Orion Race Team versus Apex Racing UK's Antoine Hegelin. This is a scrap for P number 9. The good thing for Hegelin was that he had DRS available to him. But the interesting thing is that Hegelin's just slipping away from Kevin Ellis Jr. right now. And he's just about going to fall out of DRS range, which could provide Ilkka Haapala the opportunity to make the move. Slow car there, just allowing people to go past him as onto the banking they come again. And actually that hurt Ilkka Haapala just a little bit. It meant that he couldn't really get within the draft, but we will still see how much the top line speed is between these two drivers. And Ilkka Haapala, again, he's up to 214 miles an hour now. That's a little bit faster than Antoine Hegelin, who has lost DRS range. So if he can close up into that kind of turn 12 corner, Ilkka Haapala should have the opportunity to make the pass. Yuta Saito is right behind Paslis Gergis and moves himself down to the inside. Pass complete. Thank you very much, says Yuta Saito.
Yeah, good stuff from Yuta. Gergis could fight back here, although he might be a bit cautious. Gergis, who just wants some good points from this round. There's only 23 laps remaining, so plenty of time available. But you spoke about Kevin Ellis Jr. earlier. He's currently going to match his best race result, and this will be 2 races in a row in the top 10, in P8, and very impressive. And if he gets past Jamie Fluke, who's also on par for his best race result, could be the highest placed Apex Racing UK driver, and that's something that not maybe everyone would have expected from Kevin Ellis Jr., although he's very quick, very young. They've got a good cohort of drivers coming through Apex, and surely more, all thanks to their academy program.
Yeah, and actually one of the things I think that Apex have finally figured out, they did this over the summer break, they've learned why they were losing so much time in that middle stage of a run, and all of a sudden, actually Apex have really reasserted themselves as one of the best teams here in the World Championship Series. On board with Daniel Arndt Wensing. If he manages to make this pass, I'll be impressed over Jorge Montanez. He's closed the gap down to almost nothing as they come down in towards 1, but Wensing just about a 10th and a half too far back in order to really capitalize on that opportunity with the overspeed there. Let's paint the picture for you then. Lap number 51 of 73 here in the 8th round of the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. Martin Krönke leads. He started 2nd place and then involved in a 4-way battle for the first lap of this race. Was able to get himself past De Jong 10 laps in or so, and has led pretty much every lap since then. De Jong nicely settled into 2nd place. Bono Huis, one of his better results, of course, this season. He's currently in 3rd place, albeit 10 seconds now behind your race leader, Martin Krönke. Fraser Horses in 4th, and Mack Bakkum is in P number 5. But the controversy cloud reigns over Mack Bakkum here today because of 2 real incidents. The first one was into turn number 1 of this event. Bakkum had a fantastic start, was able to go for the race lead. However, he outbraked himself and as a consequence really bunched the field back up. Then he was side by side with Gregor Hutu for about 3.5 corners. Coming out of turn number 6, him and Hutu side by side. Bakkum hits Hutu on the rear right, and basically means that Hutu, after spinning, gets collected by other drivers and is out of this motor race, Johnny.
Yeah, never good to be involved in any incident, really. Whether you're on the receiving side or you've given the contact, there's always a detriment. And well, Mack's just going to have to deal with the punishment, whatever he receives, and just keep on looking forward. That's all he's done throughout his career. He's a driver who didn't take on the license for 2016, but he came back in 2017, ready to go. New team. Joins Coanda last year. Just under 12 months ago, he joined Coanda Simsport. And I think he's still learning day by day. He's a driver that has a lot of potential. But as we always say, potential's potential, and your work ethic, your attitude. How do you react as Mack to your teammates finishing 1-2? Do you go, hide away and blame everybody else for your lack of pace, or do you realize that you still have time to improve and you're going to put in the work and learn from them? So he's one of those guys, and I think he's got, I'm not saying he's going to be a world champion in the future, but he definitely has the potential to do so.
We just saw the driver of Daniel Wensing make the pass over Jorge Montanez It was set up the lap before. We saw how close he could get. He was within half a second on lap number 53. He was able to breeze past the driver of Jorge Montanez, with the Radicals Online driver of Daniel Arndt-Wensing. We're now having a look at Yao Vaz versus Stephen Michaels, Vortex Sim Racing versus Orion Race Team. Now, Vortex Sim Racing are going to be a team disappointed with their performance here today after Balas Remniak had his best qualification of his iRacing World Championship Series career. Now you've got Stephen Michaels in P number 12 kind of holding the fort for that team, but Yao Vaz is trying to put on the offensive moves late on in this motor race. Can he get himself the move done into one? No, he can't.
He can't. I'm sure Dennis Garisi at Vortex is going to be hard at work trying to build a squad for next year, and I'm sure Stephen Michaels and Remniak will be on his radar as well to maintain them and sign them up for 2018. He doesn't want to lose any more drivers. And there was a point I remember in 2016 in the Pro Series, the 2015 to 16 Pro Series, because it does start in 2015 and end in 2016. There was about 8 or 9, I can't remember the exact number, of Vortex drivers that were potentially going to make the World Championship. Now they've only got a couple here out in the grid.
Yeah, indeed. So as this time by Yao Vaz's biggest issue seems to be, by the way, he can't get the run out of this corner here. The gap is 6 tenths of a second. If Stephen Michaels can keep that gap at 6 tenths of a second, he has nothing to worry. Even if you use ERS and DRS at the same time, I don't think that Yao Vaz will really be able to get himself past, as again they work themselves through the banking towards the start-finish line, past the yard of bricks and down towards turn number 1. And indeed so, Yao Vaz can get close, but nowhere near close enough to make an effective overtaking opportunity. Ilkka Haapala versus Kevin Ellis Jr. That's our new battle then for P number 8. And Haapala, we know, can have some fast race. In fact, I mean, again, we talk about Ilkka Haapala all the time. I absolutely love Ilkka Haapala as a driver. You know, we don't often give him enough credit. He's always one that goes under the radar, but he makes passes. He's consistently a finisher here in the World Championship Series. And I actually would say, if we were to put together, you know, most consistent driver, I think Ilkka will be up there in the top 5 of all time.
Of all, yeah. Oh, you just, of all time, you know,
challenge me. Challenge me.
No, I agree. He's one of the most consistent. I'd have to look at all the other. I definitely throw Krönke in the top 5 for sure. Gregor as well. Ilkka, yeah, why not? I think he's right up there. He's more than experienced. He hasn't missed a season since the inaugural 2010 season of the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix season. And you said you love Ilkka Haapala, and I'm glad you said as a driver too. I love him as a person. I think he's a great person to have on the team. He's experienced, knows his stuff, good personality.
Oh, Yao Vaz just half spun again.
And Yao Vaz half spins, which is never good. And is that just going past? Oh,
yeah, he lost 2 places, I think, there, did Yao Vaz. And again, it was one of those situations. He was trying to make a move down in towards turn number 1. But that car seems to be very tough when he's breaking at an acute angle here today. So here's a replay on board of him versus Stephen Michaels in towards turn number 1. Yao Vaz was within that half-second window, uses ERS, uses DRS in towards the first corner, gets alongside. Then, as they work themselves through the corner, he just slides that car. Yeah, on the marbles. But also, you forget that turn 2 is slightly off camber as well. It's a pretty flat track here, but turn 2 is slightly off camber. Yuki Saito goes past, and Paslas Gergis goes past as well.
Yeah, you're right. So that's a good point you bring up there. It's off camber, and the fact he's on the marbles, it's another double whammy there. So definitely doesn't help. Look up ahead, though. Is that Saito and Michaels fighting? No, it's a lap car. Oh, I got a bit excited there, didn't I? As they were making their way past Alex Bergeron. But regardless of that, Yao Vaz has a lot of time to make up here as well, Will. At the same time, Ilkka Haapala very close to Kevin Ellis Jr. on the DRS straight. How many overtakes have we seen on this straight between 7 and 8? We've seen 1 today, I remember, at least. It's such a
We saw an attempt at one, which went a little bit wrong as well. Let's not forget.
Yeah, we did. I think any pass into there deserves a trophy at least. Here's that turn 11 right-hander, which is Dirty Air Mania Central, just because the front end wants to steer to the left into the barrier, and you're trying to go right onto this long main straight, and Haapala now has a shot at the young Kevin Ellis Jr.
In towards turn 1, Ilkka Haapala Despite the little weave that we saw then by Kevin Ellis Jr., it wasn't enough to break the toe. Ilkka Haapala up into the 8th place here in the number 8 machine. And just another example of Ilkka Haapala and his experience in the World Championship Series. Kevin Ellis Jr. took a defensive line in towards turn number 1. Didn't matter. Ilkka Haapala, using the combination of ERS and DRS, was able to make the pass. I want to go back, though, to what you were saying about the running towards turn 7 and 8. It's down the Holman straightaway. I think most people have just not been attempting to make passes. They've been saving the ERS up, saving up the opportunity for the easier of the two options, that is down towards turn number 1. As Mack Bakkum has got DRS wide open, Frank Shawhorse has got it wide open as well because they passed the lap car, but Bakkum isn't allowing Shawhorse to go, and run away with this one.
No, he's not. This is the story of the first stint, wasn't it, too?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. So it looks like Shawhorse maybe has the speed to stay in front, but Bakkum just cannot get back past. That was Tomo Meglic, by the way, who they were lapping. We still haven't figured out, by the way, Will, whether the I in Meglic's name is an L or an I. I'm pretty sure it's an L, but they might have changed that, I think. Regardless, anyway. Who knows? He's got DRS on his straight too because he is in within 1 second of the leaders. Do you agree with that rule, by the way? If you're behind a lap car or if you are a lap car, you get DRS from the car in front, even though you're not battling for position.
I do.
When they first,
for one reason.
When they first introduced, when they first introduced DRS, I never thought it would work that way.
I think yes, but only for one reason. Because of the fact that you're having to allow drivers to go past you, it helps nullify the impact of it a little bit. And I think that's the good advantage of it. As Bakkum again, 215 miles an hour down towards 1, but not quite close enough to make a pass. So I don't mind it. It's not hurting anyone, so to say. And actually, it means that, Bakkum goes very loose there through turn number 2.
Wow. So we'll speak about DRS later. We've got all season to talk about that. But this battle here is, Bakkum just on the throttle. It's a snap. You can't really control that. It's just such a violent snap of the car on the throttle. Changing gears, just rev too much. And he's lost that advantage. I think he's still within DRS zone of Frank Shawhorse or something.
Yeah, he is.
Just missed whether or not he flicked it on. But he might still be within the 1 second range.
Wenzing just passes his teammate right away. No, he's just been passed by his teammate Kazuki Umeshima. Umeshima up into 16th place. Wenzing down now into P17. Happened again in towards turn number 1. We've seen this moves, of course, all day long. There's Umeshima. Moves himself down to the inside. And he claims now what is 16th place on track. So, yeah, Bakkum does keep it in the DRS range for the moment. And I must apologize, it's turn 3, not turn number 2 on track where that move happened. And, of course, he just went a little bit offline, onto the marbles, clipped the curb a little bit. And that's one of the things that hurt these drivers, especially late on into the motor race. Yuta Saito, Stephen Michaels, battle going on for 13th place on track with getting into the last, 15 laps of this event we are into now. So it's time to really put the hammer down because you are going to run out of opportunities very quickly here. Only about 15 minutes worth of racing to go in the 8th round of the championship. Saito can't make the pass yet over Stephen Michaels.
He's got to get it done because, as you mentioned, there is about 15 minutes of racing, but I'm still running out. Here they come towards the infield section. It's such a beautiful racetrack. I mean, I know it's virtual, but you really feel like you're in it. It's just the atmosphere looks amazing. The infield section looks great. And I'm not just saying that, Will, because you're sitting next to me in the commentary booth and because you love Indianapolis, but it's just very well built, I'd have to say.
Very well maintained, I'd say, actually, more than anything else. They've actually been doing works, of course, that culminated in the 100th running of the Indy 500 in 2016 to kind of renovate some of the front straightaway seats and stands. But still, this is a track which has got really an atmosphere like very few other places in the world. It's actually the largest sporting venue in the world during the Indy 500. Le Mans, it does get close. It's actually the 2nd largest. And the Nürburgring gets close as well. Generally, it's the 3rd largest sporting venue in the world. But during Indy 500 weekend, there is an atmosphere like no other. We are down now to the last 12 laps of this event. and Yuta Saito still battling it out with Stephen Michaels. This is the battle for 12th place. Bakkum versus Shawhorse is still going on as well. As you said a moment ago, by the way, that Bullet Batty spun a couple of laps ago.
Yeah, he spun at turn 1, but here's Mack Bakkum. More importantly, battle for P4. Shawhorse blocks very late and forces Mack to back off the throttle. Here's DRS engaged for Bakkum alongside each other into turn 1.
Very, very close between these two. That one's going to deserve a replay as they just settle it down again. Let's go on board then with Mack Bakkum. This is him heading on towards the banking, with Frank Shawhorse just ahead of him. And Bakkum is going to move to the right. Frank Shawhorse moves to the right as well. And in terms of defensive line versus blocking, I would say that is right on the edge, I would say, of what is allowed and what isn't allowed. But the battle goes on, and Shawhorse hasn't yet secured 4th place.
The reason I could tell Bakkum had to back off the throttle and maybe even apply the brakes is the fact that the DRS went from open to closed and then back open again when he was able to go with a clean slate of air in front. And so Mack certainly won't be happy with that. And I think let's forget about what happened in the first few laps of this event. He's over that. I really think he'll think, if I'm going to get a penalty for lap 1, surely Frake should get one for that. Although I think the stewards might be a bit lenient for Frake, who probably just get off with a warning, I'd say.
Yeah. One thing worth noting as well, it seems to me that these drivers are taking... Oh, Shawhorse just goes wide. He goes wide again. That's going to allow Bakkum to have a look down to the inside. We've talked about not having a move made into the exit of the Holman straightaway all day. This could well be the opportunity, because Frake's tyres looking as though they're just giving up a little bit of grip now. Onto the Holman straightaway they come. Mack Bakkum not going to be close enough to make the move that time by, but Frake cracking a little bit under pressure right now. And I was thinking as well, it's taken these drivers 2 laps really to recharge their ERS enough to use it in an overtaking opportunity. So Bakkum should, if he gets a good run, 4 attempts is what we're looking for here, and he's within 4 attempts. Does get a wiggle though out of turn number 12. This should be his opportunity to go for P number 4 once again. The gap is down to about 2 tenths of a second. He's got himself the overspeed wide open. Frank Shawhorse, middle of the racetrack. Bakkum down to the inside, almost there. Almost contact. There is a little bit of contact between the two of them in towards turn number 1. Guys, you're throwing away P5 positions potentially. They make contact a second time. What a fantastic battle between these two, Johnny, as that again could have ended up in calamity. But you know, we give it credit to both those drivers. Yes, there's an incident in turn number 1. Yes, they've been battling all day long, but they're taking each battle as it happens. There's none of this Taylor Swift bad blood thing going on, but this is fantastic racing at the top level of esports. This is why we love the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series.
And I'm glad to see Mack Bakkum go for the inside line into turn 1. I'm not sure if I was just very erratic as an overtaker in my career, but that's exactly what I would have done, and it paid off for him. And don't forget Frank Shawhorse as well. I know he lost out in the battle, but he gave it his all. Stuck it around the outside, maintained some good mid-apex speed, and he's still in P5. They're both clean away from that, so great scrap.
Right, I'm just going to pause it about here, and that's the issue there in terms of that second impact. That one is on Shawhorse, because actually Bakkum had nowhere to go coming out of turn number 2 in towards turn number 3, but it's been very close racing between these two drivers all day long, and we will give credit. Indianapolis has produced, I think, some of the best racing we have seen all season long. With 8 laps to go, Yuta Saito once again right on the rear of Stephen Michaels. Does he have DRS and ERS available this time by? I think he's very close, actually. This could be his best opportunity in a while. Down to 1/10 of a second. Yuta Saito is now going to go for P number 12, and he gets P number 12 over Stephen Michaels.
Brilliant pass there from Yuta. And it's just been, as you mentioned, well said, Will, a very entertaining race around Indianapolis, around the 4.2 kilometers of this road course, 2.6 miles depending on your units of choice, as Yuta Saito now wraps around turn number 6, goes past the tombstone of Gregor Hutu at turn 7, who was unfortunately this event after a clash with Mack Bakkum on lap 1. And so Saito now through the middle part of this lap. Is he having issues or is that me? No, he's all good. So Stephen Michael's still behind. And this is that difficult corner we spoke about, Will, where you just try to get the run here onto the main straight. I don't think Michaels has a chance of fighting back.
I don't think so either, not for the time being, but still a good run by Stephen Michaels. He is with it. He's 5 tenths per second back, not quite close enough to make the move again. We will just have a look, though, at the graphic, because he does close up by about 2.5 tenths per second into that first corner. And again, one of the things that some of the drivers who don't drive this McLaren MP430 would realise is that you've got both ERS and DRS, which you can use to make the pass. Now, it seems to be, as I said before, it takes 2 to 3 laps really to get enough of an ERS charge to put it all down that front straightaway. But we actually have some of the highest speeds, in fact, the highest speed of the season is down towards turn number 1 at Indianapolis.
Yep, so up to 355 kilometers an hour for some of these guys. Maybe, what's that, 220 miles an hour, is it? 230 miles an hour? I'm not the miles an hour guy. I'm from Australia, so we do things differently here. But the point is, very quick straight line speed. So, anyway, regardless, rest of this event, 6 laps remaining. This is where as well, talking about straight line speed, you're going to see the fastest point of the race because you're on such light fuel loads.
Yeah, indeed so. And of course, we have seen before that some of the fastest laps of the race come now. This is where Martin Krönke normally does that whole thing. I'm just trying to go purple one more time. We haven't talked about Martin Krönke in a while, by the way, but he's now 5.2 seconds ahead of Mitchell de Jong. This has been a race that Krönke has just been managing. He's not been driving 100% the entire time. He's been managing this event, I think, so far today.
Yep, so that's exactly the case. At the same time, it hasn't been easy. Mitchell de Jong very close, only 5 seconds behind. So, hasn't been really a... it hasn't been straightforward, as we've said, because Mitchell really, I think, has been Martin's best competitor, along with Gregor Hutu this season, and without Gregor, Mitchell's done a good job.
So, having a look down, Shawhorse versus Bakkum. Shawhorse 7 tenths of a second back. You might argue that Shawhorse is just trying to gather his thought, cool those tyres down just a little bit, and maybe then have one more attempt, because that dirty air really kicks in around 7 tenths of a second, and he's actually exactly 7 tenths of a second right now. This could just be Shawhorse playing it calm for the moment, knowing we've got 4 laps of this event to go, to then give himself one more opportunity.
He definitely has to give it a shot. I mean, P5 for Shawhorse, he knows he can do better than that. And he's a bit too far behind, though, Will. This is going to be very difficult.
Patrick Gergis versus João Vaz as well. They're separated by just 3 tenths of a second as they head themselves towards the Holman straightaway. Of course, named after the Holman-George family, who own and operate this racetrack in Indianapolis. In fact, they've done so for the last couple of laps. Chembert Bassi has just come on towards pit road for the 2nd time here today. We'll get an update on that one in a moment. Yeah, black flag there for Chembert Bassi, so not a good end to his day. Patrick Gergis, he's within that kind of 4 tenths per second window over João Vaz, but we know the top line speed for Orion Race Team has been good this afternoon. Can Gergis do anything? Well, actually, no, he's lost a tenth of a second on the run down to the yard of bricks. He loses another tenth of a second. In fact, he might come under pressure all of a sudden. Indeed, he is going to come under pressure by Kazuki Umeshima, trying to go around the outside in towards turn number 1. Kazuki just running always there into the left rear of Patrick Gergis, but we still got action going on with just under 8 miles of this race to go. And we've got a slow car there. That's the number 46 of João Vaz.
Yeah, and Vaz loses a position to Pascalis Gergis, who heads away. I think Vaz stays in front of Umeshima, though. So Vaz running very wide through the infield section, and just with 3 laps remaining, he's going to be kicking himself as Umeshima lets through one of the Coanda cars. Is that Krönke going past? Yes, it is. Yeah, so that's what you saw. João Vaz just seemed to get onto the marbles in the exit of turn number 3, and then he just had no grip on the run into turn number 4, and now he's got Martin Krönke behind him. Now,
This should be okay for Krönke with 2 laps to go at the line, because he should be able to get past both of these drivers and run in towards turn number 1. The fact that these drivers are no longer really battling, it's 8 tenths of a second between Yalvaz and Gergis. Yeah, you see Yalvaz easily moves out the way. He'll get him there, and I think he'll probably get Gergis down at the Holman straightaway, down at the middle stage of this lap. 2 laps to go, Johnny. Most panels have calmed down, except for this one. Umeshima versus Yalvaz. Vaz, as a consequence of moving out of the way, is now under pressure from the Radicals and line driver.
Yes, he is. So he really has to maintain the space, and he has to hope that Gergis makes a mistake being lapped by the Coanda car in front, so he loses a lot of time. But look at Umeshima looking up the inside.
Yep, so a lap and a half then. We haven't yet seen any real moves on the Holman straightaway, but I think actually Val's tyres are starting to really go for him now. Umeshima's not going to make the pass here. He'll most likely do so down in towards the well, final corner yard of brakes, turn number 1. You know the drill. We've been seeing it all race long, but Umeshima not so good actually through the sequence of corners. And you're going to have to remember that Yalvaz will also have DRS. And we know, as I said already in the last 5 minutes, Orion Race Team have been pretty fast here today. But one more lap then. One more lap for your winner of this event in about 2.5 miles time, Martin Krönke. And Martin Krönke again today has been fantastic. Once again, Martin Krönke has shown why he is a world champion, and he's now so close to his 2nd world championship because of the fact the start was crazy. That could have ended in tears, but Martin Krönke didn't get too aggressive. He thought his way for the first couple of corners and was able to be in 2nd place by the end of the first lap. He waited for his time to get past his teammate Mitchell de Jong. It was a clean pass. There was no team orders there, but Martin Krönke since then has pulled out enough of a lead. He's not been driving too hard. He's been managing the race here, managing expectations of himself and the Coanda Sim Sports team. But at the end of this event, for the 8th time this season, as Martin Krönke heads himself onto the banking for the final time this afternoon, we will say that Martin Krönke wins a round in the 2017 iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. Martin Krönke is now 8 for 8. And now you've got to argue that championship is pretty much his for the taking. Mitchell de Jong comes home in 2nd place for Coanda Sim Sports. In a moment's time, we will see Bono Huis coming past the start-finish line to claim 3rd place. Bono Huis has driven a great race here today for Team Redline, but just didn't have the pace to challenge those 2 Coanda drivers when it mattered. Mack Bakkum comes home in a very hard-fought 4th place. And then running out your top 5 is Freek Shawhorse, who'd been battling basically all day long with Mack Bakkum. But again, it is the Martin Krönke show. Martin Krönke is now 8 for 8 in 2017. Johnny, wow.
What a race. This has been one of the most enjoyable races in 2017. Thoroughly enjoyed it from start to finish, and I mean start of qualifying to checkered flag right now. It's just been thrilling. We had a bit of drama, a bit of good on-track action, a bit of everything really. Strategies come into play, and it's just been thrilling. And this is why I love this series so much and why I missed it over the long break we had between now and Imola.
We've also had a photo finish. Look at this between Gergis, who is on the right-hand side of your screen, and the driver of Yalvaz on your left. As they cross the start-finish line, it's too hard for me to even show it to you, but they were so close. Gergis just holds on to that 14th place.
Wow, what a finish there. And Vaz could have got him another few millimeters if they just shifted that start-finish line a few meters ahead. I think Vaz would have got him. So that was a great fight to end the race. Gergis will be more than pleased with P14 coming into this race. Wasn't really expecting much of himself, but great result for him in that core sim racing car. No Isaac Price for the team as well, and Isaac is focusing on a few other commitments for now. So core, by the way, brilliant season to build that team, and brilliant result. As I said, this is some good motivation for them for next round.
Yeah, There we are then. João Vaz just before the yard of bricks. That's how close it was between himself and the driver of Paslis Gergis. It was mighty close between the two of them here this afternoon. But again, it is Martin Krönke who takes victory here this afternoon. And it has been a fantastic event. And here, ladies and gentlemen, is your final race results. Koana Sim Sports 1-2, Martin Krönke, Mitchell de Jong. They held on after a crazy first couple of corners, and Krönke wins by 6.1 seconds over Mitchell de Jong. Bono Huis, third place for Team Redline, just about 20 seconds back then from your race leader at the end. Mack Bakkum, fourth place, controversial fourth place, some would say, after that lap 1 incident with Gregor Hutu, but he fought and he fought hard against Frank Shawhorse for the majority of this race and won it clean in the end between the two of them. Frank Shawhorse has to settle for 5th place. Koana Sim Sports, 4 drivers inside your top 6 with Koanda. Martti Pietilä in that 6th position, Jamie Fluke in 7th. First Apex Racing UK car. They have got 3 drivers inside the top 10 with Kevin Ellis Jr. and Antoine Hegelin. Ilka Happara is the only other team represented in your top 10. That is Orion Race Team. They finish in P number 8. We'll cycle those results back for you then. And you see Marcus Jensen in the 11th place there for Apex Racing UK. Stephen Michaels, Yuta Saito are the last 2 drivers to finish on the lead lap. Paslis Gergis versus João Vaz. Well, that one came down to thousandths of a second between them at the end, but Paslis Gergis does come home in P14. João Vaz, P15 here this afternoon. Kazuki Umeshima then, he's made a lot of passes, but only managed to get P number 16, as you've got 3 Radicals drivers inside your top 20. Daniel Arndt Wenzing is the 3rd of those. He finishes in P number 17. Radicals had some issues at the start, being involved in the incidents down at turn number 10, not through their own making. Jorge Montanes in 18th place, David Corp and Dion Verges, 2 Orion Race Team drivers, 19th and 20th place, respectively. You got Daniel Bida, the Israeli driver, the only Israeli driver in the history of the World Championship Series, Positive Sim Racing in 21st place. Then Paul Ilbrink in 22nd for Radicals Online. Champs iRacing's Victor Preto 23rd, Mogar Filo in 24th, and Fernet Kern rounding out your top 25. Drivers scored 2 laps down. Tomo Meglik, you got yourself Chembert Bassi and Alex Bergeron. Retirees, Balas Remniak, Gregor Hutu in 30th place, and Fabrizio Gobbi for Thrustmaster Mivano Racing. Fastest lap of the day goes to Martin Krönke. He doesn't get the trifecta here today, but he does get 2 of the 3 fastest lap race victory. We will step aside. When we come back, it will be time for post-race interviews.
iRacing, you wanted the best, you got them for abreast. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show on dirt, the World of Outlaws.
Welcome back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Indianapolis for the iRacing World Championship Series post-race show here from what has been a crazy, fantastic event where once again Martin Krönke wins, but that doesn't tell the entire story. There's been controversy, there's been racing, there's been action, there's been pretty much everything. Martin Krönke, you now have a 62-point lead in the championship with 4 rounds to go. There's a lot, but it's still a lot of work to go, but you've got to start thinking it at some point. You've got to tell me you're going to start thinking about it now.
Not quite yet. I think those 60-something points are not including the drop week.
Yeah, true.
It does it.
Doesn't include the drop week.
Yeah, then it's going to be a little bit less.
Yeah, true.
Probably around 40 points, but that still isn't enough, really. I mean, 1 DNF and, yeah, championship is wide open again.
But you are 8 from 8. I mean, first thing I want to talk about, that start. I think probably the craziest start we've seen all season long. And it could have gone horribly wrong, but you survived. Emotions in your car at the start of this event?
Pretty much only to blame myself for the situation I've come into. I mean, lost the lead, or P2, even very early on. Just was way too aggressive with the clutch, had wheel spin, and apparently Mitchell also had some problems. Mack had a fairly good start, it seems, but missed turn 1. A little bit chaotic, but luckily ended up not hitting something, and car was intact, so good stuff.
So we think about the rest of your event here today. Of course, you ended up getting the pass over the driver of Mitchell de Jong. And that was important, I think, that you did it early on, because you did still have Bono Huis close behind you in those first stages of the event. But how hard was the racing here today, in your opinion?
Well, it wasn't as hard as it probably could have been if someone else is in front. I mean, Mitchell didn't necessarily let me by, but also didn't really put me under too much of a fight. So it has been a little bit more relaxing than it could have been. Other than that, I think most of the race was relatively relaxed. I mean, we had a fairly good kart today, could break away from the others relatively cleanly, and from then on, yeah, just block laps.
Well, I mean, the second part of your race did seem pretty simple, although you overshot your pit stall. You came out just 0.6 of a second ahead of your teammate Mitchell de Jong. Was the heart pounding at that moment?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, I've stayed out for quite a bit longer than most others, and I knew that I'm going to lose time by that, because at the end of the day, the tires were fairly done at the end of the first stint, and overshooting the pit stall then, obviously, a terrible thing to happen, but luckily it played out okay. I think it was less than a second, but at least in front.
Well, we head ourselves now from arguably the most famous racetrack in America to one of the most famous racetracks in Europe, to Circuit Spa-Francorchamps in a couple of weeks' time. And same question, Carana Simsport versus Redline. We talk about the battle all the time. How do you think that one's going to go down?
Tough to tell, especially considering that last year Gregor essentially was sort of out of contention for the win very early on, and you don't really have a direct comparison. But I think, especially qualifying-wise, last year we've been pretty good there. I think this year we should probably be as strong, if not even stronger, and the same goes for race pace. So I'm relatively confident that we'll do pretty well there, but of course you never know how the other teams work, how much they improve, and yeah, we'll see in 2 weeks.
Well, thanks, Martin. Before we let you go, who gets it done for you? Who do you want to give a shout out to from your Carana Simsports team?
Well, first of all, I want to thank all my teammates that helped prepare the car and were there for testing. Of course, also a huge thank you to our spotters that do the work behind the scenes. And of course, a huge thank you as well to our sponsors. First of all, Virtual Racing School, and as well to Heusingfeld, Andron Design, SimQuip, and Joel Rutami.
Well, thank you very much there. Martin Krönke comes home with the victory, as he's done once or twice this season, Johnny. But you're stood by with second place driver Mitchell de Jong.
Thanks, Will. Mitchell de Jong with another podium finish this season, but we'd start off Mitchell, I think, going back to qualifying. Pole position, only setting one-time lap. Could you be even faster than Martin and in the 104.8s?
Yeah, it was certainly an unexpected qualifying for me. In testing, it wasn't looking too good for me, just not used to the car again after such a long break, but The second lap should have been a bit better, but it's tough to say. On the start of my lap, I just locked the fronts immediately, and the rest of the lap I just had to pull off because they were completely done. So you never know, but I think, yeah, it would have been close maybe.
I want to go back to the race now. So do you really think, now this could, no shots at any other drivers, but do you think you've been Martin's closest competitor this season out of any other driver on the grid in terms of pace? You'll go back to Monza as well. I mean, you only finished 9/10 behind at Monza.
Yeah, it's tough to say. You know, I just try my best each time, and obviously he's still way ahead of everyone else. You know, just being 3/10 a lap quicker, it adds up so fast, as you probably saw in the second stint there. So, you know, I don't know. I hope one day I can, you know, consistently drive more. I think the remainder of the season I'll be able to race here, so I'm really looking forward to it. And yeah, I think it could be a good remainder of the season.
So 6 seconds though behind Martin over 73 laps. So I mean, that's less than a 10th a lap. I know it's very hard to spot, but you've got the data, you've got access to your teammate more than any other driver, apart from a driver in Coanda, obviously, such as Mack. What are the differences between you and Martin right now? Because that's a very small, very hard to spot gap there to see on, let's say, telemetry.
Yeah, I think my biggest thing in the race today was I just wasn't confident when the tires started to die. You know, it was so edgy, like driving on the edge like that it would just snap so easily. So once they started falling away, I didn't really have the confidence to push it any harder. But Martin does a fantastic job of getting the most out of the car at every situation. So you know, I'd like to hope that we can bring the gap down with more practice, more consistent practice, and being able to race the car more. So I guess we'll see in the remainder of the season, but yeah, I hope so. Hope that's all it is.
And finally, next round, I know, and I'm very happy, by the way, that you can attend the rest of the season, which apparently, I'm assuming that's what you said. You can make the rest of the races. So, Spa next round, we know what happened last year. I don't want to bring that up again, but you've had 2 third-place finishes before at Spa, 2014, 2015. You don't want to finish on the podium again this season. You really want the race win. You're at a track where is arguably one of Coanda's best tracks, and that's been proven just through pure pace, especially that, you know, last year, the year before. What are you going to do at Spa? Is it a track you love, you're confident at? Can you claim victory at Spa and spoil your teammates' 100% race streak this season?
Oh, I love Spa. It's like one of my all-time favorite tracks. But yeah, it's been good in the past for us. So gonna try to get some practice there. Be still a little bit tight on schedule for that one, but should be able to make it and probably put in the same effort as this one. So yeah, you never know. But no, Martin's super strong, and the rest of my teammates as well. So I just have to try to do everything correctly, and we'll see.
Yeah, there you go, Will. Mitchell de Jong, another podium finish. Only finished second this season every time he's finished a race. I'm sure he wants to change that come Spa in a couple of weeks.
I think there's many people that want to get to that top step of the podium this season, but Mitchell de Jong, I would say, is one of those drivers who has been outstanding every time we've seen him this season, and he in many ways has been the closest driver, probably alongside Gregor Hutu, to try and dethrone Martin Krönke this season. Next up, we're going to talk to the driver that came home in 4th place here today, Mack Bakkum. Hello.
Hello, guys.
Question number 1. You know what's going to happen. What happened down at turn number 1?
Yeah, I had a super good launch, which was nice. And then I had a pretty big FPS drop going into the corner, so that kind of distracted me and probably messed up my braking because of that. So probably already caused a bit of chaos there. And then to answer your next question, which I'm assuming is going to come, when I went to the turn 5, I think it is, 5, 6, something like that, I just carried too much speed, and yeah, I hit Gregor, and then from there on, I think even more chaos ensued.
My next question was actually going to be, how worried were you that you'd actually end up taking out one of your teammates down at turn number 1? Because it was mighty close between all 4 of you drivers actually exiting that second corner.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really think about it that much at that moment. I was just trying to get the car to stay on track, to be honest. So, yeah, luckily nothing happened there, but it could have gone wrong, yeah.
Now, you've been involved in a battle with Frank Shawhorse pretty much all race long. Some, I'd say extremely close racing between the 2 of you, not an inch given, but how was that battle?
Yeah, it was interesting. I don't know, I felt a bit slower than him today. I don't know what happened. In the start it was really quick, but my tires just seemed to die off after 10 laps, which didn't happen in practice, so I think I was just overdriving the car today. So when Freight came up behind me, I think it was like 3-4 tenths a lap quicker. I just let him through and stay in his DRS, because that's fairly easy to do here. And then, yeah, in the end, he seemed to burn through his tires quicker than I did, so we had a very spicy battle, and I think he went wide into me a few times, and I think I got 8 incidents from it, so I was right on the limit of the incident. So I just took it easy once I was ahead to avoid a disqualification.
Well, next time out, of course, we are going to Spa Francorchamps. Now, assuming that there's no post-race penalties and you'll be good in the entire race, what do you think you can do at Spa?
Oh, I really have no idea. Hopefully a bit better than today with all this new equipment, and I think I got fairly used to it very quickly, but I think I'll be 100% for Spa, so I hope I can do at least 1 spot better, assuming there are no post-race penalties or that will affect me for Spa.
Well, thank you very much there. Mack Bakkum coming home 4th place here this afternoon. And well, Johnny, to round off our broadcast then, it's been a very, very interesting race.
Definitely has. One of my favorite races this season. It's been entertaining, as we said earlier, mix of everything, mix of drama, track action, strategy, good entertainment, great start as well, just everything. And I really like the start as well. Mack off the line, off the clutch, split his 2 teammates, just brilliant, you know. And I just I'm looking forward to the next round at Spa. I can't believe it's already over at Indy, you know. We've waited so long for this round, and I just want more, and I think that's what has really excited me after Indianapolis. Maybe it's because it's Indy. Who knows?
Who knows, indeed. But that's all we got time for then in the 8th round of the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. It was a crazy start to the motor race, but when all was said and done, we ended up in a situation where we had ourselves a fantastic start to the race, a controversial first lap, but then afterwards we had ourselves some fantastic racing. So long from Indianapolis. We'll see you all at Spa.